Welcome, everyone. Sorry for the delay.
So we'll start tonight's meeting of the Jericho Select Board at 6:35 p.m. And as usual, we start with public to be heard, and this is for anybody who has something to say that is not on the agenda. Do we have anybody wish to speak that's not on the agenda? Doesn't look like it. I don't see any hands.
For those of us who are online, could you just let us know who's in the room besides John and Catherine and Joe?
Sure. We have Eric Axelrod representing Wood for Good. And that's it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So since there's no public to be heard, then we'll move into the Essex Rescue budget presentation with Colleen Ballard.
Good evening, Colleen.
Good evening. How is everyone? I will try and hold on to my voice here. Are you able to hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, was it a bit much? Do you care to hear any statistics as we ended the 2023 year as far as call volume and things, or have you received what you want as far as that goes? I sent quarterly reports over, and just some interesting stats that were sent over with it. I don't know if you have interest in that or you just want to jump right to the budget.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds, Colleen.
Sure.
I'll open the budget and share that. Okay, can everyone see that?
I can see it.
Thank you.
Are you ready for me to? I don't want to keep people
Yeah,
waiting.
no, I think we're good, Colleen. If you just be willing to do a brief stroll down budget lane, that would be really
Sure.
helpful for folks watching at home and the select
sure.
board.
So I don't think anything is going to stand out too much in running through this budget. Things are actually looking pretty good right now. Something to keep in mind as we look at transport revenue coming in. The company that does our transport billing, that's going to be a calendar year, even though we operate in a fiscal year. So just keep that in mind as we're looking at numbers. We are in a good spot with transport revenue coming in, but that could also be revenue from the previous year, because we're usually we could be up to 2 or 3 months behind in what we've billed out to what we're getting back. So, but all in all, our donations and subsidies. Sorry.
I just was going to say, so actual is that's not a fiscal year then, that's just calendar year 2023 or?
That's well, I mean, because this is probably hasn't been reconciled. It was reconciled probably close to the middle of December. So this is, our fiscal year to December.
Oh,
But
so
when
it's 2024's fiscal year, halfway through.
Right. So when you're
Okay.
looking at the funds coming in, though, because some of this, when we do our actual budget numbers, that's based on where we think we're going to be. But sometimes there's a lag in what is billed out the previous year that doesn't actually come in until this year. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're looking at the numbers. I do think we are definitely ahead in what's coming in. But there was, I don't know if you remember me mentioning that there was this cyber situation that took down our billing company's software. And then there was this long gap where we didn't receive any of our payments. So then everything kind of came in all at once. So I don't think we're seeing a ton of that at this point, but it's just something to bear in mind because we are a little bit ahead, but some of that can also ebb and flow throughout the year. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So donations and subsidies are on target. Transport revenue, we are, like I said, in a good place. Things are coming in. We have had 2 ambulances on the road. We're not going to see that in these numbers, but I do think that we will hopefully see some of that help to balance out the budget in general. Other revenue, that is, if we do a blood draw for the police department or any other services that get billed, that comes in through other revenue. That also would be, unfortunately, we had someone back into the ambulance bay, the wall, which required us to file an insurance claim. That money would go back into other revenue. So that's basically funds that we can't really say are necessarily going to, we have any control over knowing they're going to happen, but that's what that is if you have questions there. Subscription revenue, that is still coming in. We won't have those full numbers for, I mean, they'll trickle in probably until March or April. We'll get a few more there. I think I've entered about 1,600 so far. And last year we were around 1,800 subscriptions. So we still have more to go, but they're coming in. So overall,
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Would you mind just clarifying what subscription means for people who are joining who may not be
Sure.
aware?
Yeah, so Essex Rescue offers a annual subscription to the residents that are served by Essex Rescue, and also those that would receive service if Essex Rescue wasn't available by Richmond Rescue. And it's a $50 per household for Essex Rescue, and it's a $65 if you want to subscribe to both Essex Rescue and Richmond Rescue. And what that means is if someone in your household was to receive services from Essex Rescue, we would bill insurance and waive whatever deductible or remaining amount isn't covered by insurance, or if you don't have insurance. And that helps financially to bridge the gap with some of the, for the lack of insurance payment money that actually to cover the insurance that transports themselves. So that's what the subscription is. So last year, I think we saw around $140,000 from our subscriptions, and they trickle in. I mean, we were still getting them in November. So they trickle in throughout the year, but we're hoping to see about the same this year.
Great,
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So payroll is under what we expected. That would be because for a good portion of 23, we didn't actually have, we weren't fully staffed, so we weren't paying benefits or anything. Even with the people that we've hired to staff a second ambulance and overtime and all of that, we are still a bit under, which is really good to see. Employee benefits, all of these things are, again, that's another one that's going to be under a bit because we didn't have the employees for it, but nothing real significant to report there. Communications, do you want me to go line by line or point out anything of?
I'll leave it to Catherine and Joe.
Not really. I'm okay looking at this right now.
I just hit the highlights unless somebody that's online has a question that you don't answer.
So communications is our building phones, cell phones, the software that we use to call everybody if there was a large incident, in internet services. Nothing really spectacular there. Our dues and things are like any other subscriptions or dues or association fees that we pay to be part of like the Vermont Ambulance Association and things. Utilities, computer hardware, we did have to purchase some laptops this year, so that number was up, but again, we're still under. Training and things are under partially because we don't have as many people going through EMS classes, and the state had some funds out to support EMS education. So that was helpful as far as that line item goes. Fuel.
Will those funds roll over, Colleen?
Say that again?
Will those funds roll over? We'd be able to use them looking to the next fiscal year? Are those allocated annually?
No, so they were just for that short time that they did that, and they did release some more funds, but it was geared towards more advanced training, like a paramedic program and things, critical care type stuff. There is discussion about trying to do something again so we can continue to fund those programs. That line item also serves as our squad training. So to have, expert training done by cardiologists and stroke teams and things like that. Those, if there's anything that would require compensation to get a training or a certification out of it, that would be also what those funds are used for.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Medical supplies, we're doing well with something. The fuel number does not look right to me. I don't know why that number is so low, but we've definitely used more fuel than that. So I don't know what is happening with that number. I'll have to look into that. My assumption is it's a misallocation by the bookkeeper. Medical supplies, although the cost has gone up, we have continued to look around for better pricing and things. And that's just one of those things you got to keep playing with. But building and grounds, we didn't have anything large. We spent a lot of money last year on replacing the roof and a bunch of rotting windows. So this year we didn't have any of that. Unfortunately, I had to replace a bay door and have some work done after the issue with the bay being hit. But other than that, there's really nothing that is overly exciting about the budget and where we are. I'm glad that I'm happy with where we are. So.
Great. Any questions? Anyone joining online have any questions for Colleen regarding Essex Rescue Service or budget? Colleen, I have a couple of general questions. So I think I know the answer based on some of your responses. So is volunteerism still continuing to be a challenge?
It is. Yep. I don't suspect that's going to change too dramatically. We still have volunteers coming in the door. I think we have like 6 or 7 that we're going to be interviewing. Whether or not they make it out of the training phase is kind of where we start to see people drop off when they realize how much is involved, or they start experiencing the sleepless nights. They're still coming, but I don't really see that changing too dramatically.
And it seems like the landscape of Medicaid reimbursements has improved.
Yes, the state increased the payout to match Medicare, which also I think is, some of the benefit of the numbers that we're seeing in front of us. Hopefully that will continue. There was also some legislation from recommendations from Senate Catherine Sims I think she's out of Orleans County, on the healthcare board, who's trying to increase the reimbursement for non-transports to match the BLS rate that Medicare pays.
Right.
That is a big issue for a lot of ambulance services, that they're not receiving any payment for that service. The average cost of the ambulance going out the door is $1,000. So if you aren't bringing anything back, but you're putting out, obviously, that's going to put everybody in a bad spot financially.
Right, non-reimbursable expense. Have you seen any specific decrease in those kinds of calls? It seems like going back 2 years ago, you were getting lots of lots of slips and falls, and I know you have a couple of convalescent communities within your municipality specifically. Has there been any aggregate change?
No, there hasn't been. We are going to be doing a pilot project with UVM Medical Center, where we're going to start working with a group in the ER when we are seeing repeat patients that are having falls at home. If they are willing to enroll in this program, the hospital is funding people to go to the residents and do kind of a fall assessment, or if it's somebody that's having difficulty transferring from a chair to a bed, or there's a trip hazard of a carpet, or they need a ramp installed, UVM, in effort to try and decrease some of these frequent transports to the hospital, is funding this program. So it's a pilot now. I do think it will be useful for a lot of folks, especially the fact that they're paying for it, because that access to the resource is one thing, but the financial piece of having to put in some of this stuff or finding a contractor to do it, it has proven to be difficult for a lot of people. So no, to answer the first question, the number is not going down. This year we ended with 3,200 calls. That's 200 above where we ended last year. So I think it's just, in healthcare in general, the numbers are going up. I don't think they're going to go down.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Any other?
No, it was a good presentation.
Sorry, it's kind of short and sweet. I just got back from vacation and I was trying to put everything together, but
Sorry, got a cold. That's a bummer.
Yeah,
I know. Well, that's what you get for being on an airplane, right?
yeah, that's right.
Colleen, while we have you on, can I just ask, you had forwarded the regional medical services coordination study.
Yes.
If you were to provide us with a synopsis
That'd be great.
and looking at that study and what doing the work you do on the ground, were you encouraged? Were you discouraged? Where do you see statewide EMS heading?
I would say, I think it's hard for me because I was on the committee and know what discussions were occurring around the table. And as I mentioned in my email, the type of study that this was, we provide the info, the insight, and suggestions, but the state was able to take what they wanted from it and make it what they wanted. I think it's a little bit misleading in the criticalness of the financial side of EMS. One of the first lines in it was that it's not in crisis, and I disagree with that statement. I think the system is working okay currently, but if there was a big incident, I think it would tip the scale and we would see some pretty substantial problems. There's really nothing in there that I could say is going to significantly change the financial challenges of the system. There's also very little in there that's going to support the EMS office in having further divisions and things to look broader at the system as a whole. Everybody has their own little area that they're focusing on, but really the state right now is just a regulatory body. In other states or even in the fire service, there's different divisions and areas within that office that help support the smaller agencies in the system. And Vermont doesn't have that. There's really no support for these agencies. They're very much on their own, and there's nothing in there that's going to support that either. Yes, education's important, but we also don't have as many people coming in without the education. A lot of them are taking classes without joining a service first, which is helpful because you're not having to wait for people to come in. But they're also not staying in Vermont. The numbers of people recertifying continue to go down. So as much as I'm an optimistic person, so I want to stay optimistic because this is an important service that's provided, but I feel like everything that's in that report is a lot of what we've been saying over and over again. And I don't know how much ground that's really going to gain.
I appreciate that. That was my impression. Seemed like there was a heavy emphasis on the challenges of communication on a statewide level. Is there any commitment on the part of the legislature to finance a system that will work better, more comprehensively, or?
Not to my knowledge. The last attempt to do that failed to go anywhere. And I think Catherine Sims has kind of seen the writing on the wall, which was her effort of throwing in this this transport cost change, because every other effort to try and keep these discussions happening just aren't going anywhere.
Great. I've got a question from Peter Booth. Peter?
Just a request, is it possible to stop sharing your screen now that the conversation's moved on from the actual budget?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. There you go. Any other questions for Holly? Great.
Great.
Colleen, thank you for your time and all that you guys do.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. I will keep you updated with anything else that I hear with the legislator and all of that stuff.
How's the subscription, the sort of mutual aid recognition of subscription working out?
You mean with the addition of Richmond?
Yeah, with Richmond.
Yeah, I will say that pretty much most of the people that are sending them in from Underhill and Jericho are opting to subscribe to both. There's very few people that haven't opted to do that. So I do think that has been a successful change. I will say that we recently met with Richmond, Williston, St. Michael's, and ourselves to try and help take some of the load off the call volume that St. Michael's was experiencing coming into our area, because their volume was also increasing. And we're just to get the closest ambulance to the patient the soonest. And since some other ambulance services had come on board, it was a little lopsided in who came in. So Richmond has picked up a little bit more area between the Underhill, Jericho, and the northern end there of Essex, which, we may end up having to offer some of that benefit to other people as well. But it was a very generous deal that Richmond offered us. They will receive anything that was over the $50 will go back to Richmond Rescue to help compensate for any write-offs that they encounter for this subscription. So they're going to get something out of this to help sustain themselves as well.
Great.
That's good. That was good.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
We'll stay in touch.
Yes, sounds good.
Take care, Colleen. Thank you.
You as well.
Next on the agenda is the approval of the certificate of highway mileage, which we do every year.
So I have, as I explained in my notes earlier, and for people who are joining, the certification of highway mileage is an annual ritual by which municipalities are asked to certify the amount of road mileage in their communities. And that is important to them because that road mileage calculation is what drives the state contribution for road maintenance and paving. So I have the certificate of highway mileage here for the select board to sign.
Question,
Yes.
we had no additions to this year, even for that highway that we,
No, not this year. I think it's 2025 or 6.
that will change it because of the recent,
Yeah.
okay,
Is that in regard to Gravel?
yes,
Yeah, I think that won't take hold this fiscal year.
okay, just wanted to check.
So for.
And then you're throwing up another road, which is a tiny little thing.
Yeah, it's point. It's like
Yeah.
point
Do you know that
miles.
John Burke came to me probably 20 years ago on that?
Oh, on Maycomber?
Yes.
Yeah.
He said, why do we have a bridge that serves one house?
Right.
But yeah,
In fact, as it was on the tip not that long ago.
yeah,
So for
Okay.
curiosity of people who are joining, the amount of mileage that's being certified this evening, state highway miles, being Route 15, 6.68 miles, class 3 roads, 41.4 miles, and class 2 roads, 20.5 miles. So I'll hand this off to you, Catherine.
Okay. And we need a vote on that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yes,
Yes.
I,
Oh, you have a copy. Do you have a copy? Oh, great.
and I'm looking at right here. I'll make a motion to approve the certificate of highway mileage for the year ending February 10th, 2024.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Right, then we can,
Great.
sorry.
Thank you.
There we go. And then, I'll sign it later, but now that we, Mr. Axelrod is here,
Yeah, sure. You want to see?
yeah. He's here because he had sent an email to me to ask to be on the agenda to talk about some of the issues they're having and, what they're doing and stuff like that, but there's no guarantee, obviously, there's no guarantee that we could do anything at the moment or whatever.
Understood.
But, I mean, people, do support you, and I know that there's folks that come out and volunteer a lot, so it's, useful to have on the record.
Yeah. So just a short history of Wood for Good. So we started about 5 years ago now. We've given away somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 plus cords of firewood to families in need. Maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure. Records were a little iffy in the beginning, but now they're much better. So as many people know, we're at the Davis farm. They've generously allowed us to use some land at the back of their property. And so we've been able to process wood there, and we do continue to grow. So we're almost entirely a volunteer run organization. We do have a part-time employee right now, which is exciting for us, but we're looking to continue to expand the operation. And what we've done beyond helping, families in Jericho and Underhill, which I did a rough count as a couple dozen families that we've helped over the years, as well as every other town in Chittenden County, is that we're trying to expand out beyond that reach. So the goal, we can go within 50 miles of Jericho by law for the bugs. We can't go any further than that, right? And so right now, we have a spot in Middlesex, another one in St. Albans, as well as a location in Jeffersonville where we've been using our larger truck to truck wood there. And then we have a network of volunteers in those spaces to then distribute it. So long story short here is that we're there's two problems that we have with the land that we're on. First of all, it's not enough space. It's not large enough for the operations, and our goal is to get to 500 cords per year by the winter of 2025, not this winter, but the following year. And so in order to do that, we just need a larger processing area. And what we most importantly need is flat land, because what we'd like to ideally set up is pour potentially a concrete pad, and maybe get some blocks so that we could use a real loader and load trucks and get them in and out of our yard quickly, and also season the firewood properly for the families who are receiving it. So the ask or the question of the select board is, we'd love to keep it in Jericho. You know, this is a cool thing, I think, for the town. I know for me and my family, it's been amazing. And I think that, you know, our largest base of volunteers comes from Jericho, and we'd love to figure out a way to keep it here, and also in a low impact way. So the ask is to use some land at the back of one of the yards that isn't currently being utilized, that we could process, season, and distribute firewood from in the most low impact way that we could.
Yeah, that's tough. I'm not sure what we have, you know, that's potentially available now, you know, plus, you know, do you really do it for one group and not for another, stuff like that. But one of the things we can offer initially is, because we have we have discretionary funding through the town, you know, budget, that, you know, all kinds of not-for-profits signed up for funding. I mean, you certainly could get funding there that might help you if there's some place in Jericho that you could lease, and, you know, in the interim till, you know, something might shake out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, certainly that's great. You know, the thought was like, you know, we don't really need anything other than just land. So like the corner of the yard where like no one's utilizing it, in the back of like where the gravel pits are, like abutting where the trails are, or something like that, as long as we can get our truck up to it.
Yeah, it all depends, because some of that is now all mobs conserved land, and that's limited, you know, up there as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges in that space, as you know, we're actually gonna be talking about it shortly, is we're hoping to be building a new town maintenance facility.
Yes, I was reading about that. Yep.
So that will, that'll consume a significant amount of property just across the road from where the current facility is.
Okay.
And, not, you know, without looking at a map and knowing where the gravel pits and all that are, it'd be hard to estimate what kind of available land there actually is.
We're too early in the planning thunder.
For ours, yeah.
Yeah, to handle that.
So there could be, I mean, at some point there could be some potential, but right now it's kind of hard to tell.
So I guess the question I have, Eric, is you want more space. What about two spaces of smaller size?
So right now we have about $200,000 of equipment sitting
Mhm.
at the Davis farm. So then we need to have $200,000 more equipment sitting in another farm.
So your goal is not to move equipment.
Well, we can't move equipment. We just don't have the money for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's like, that,
So-
you know, I mean, we could probably like lease some land from Villano, right? Like I spoke to him about that, right? But you know, he wants like real rent, right? And we don't
Oh,
we don't have real money, right? We operate on a shoestring budget, to say the least. And all the equipment that we've gotten has come from, you know, we've been very fortunate to have the generous donations that we've had. But it's you know, I just want to say that like there is a direct community benefit of Wood for Good for Jericho, in that we help people in Jericho. So it's not like you know, we're trying to set up something where we're like, I'm just thinking out loud here. It's like there is a direct community benefit, and the people who are involved in building community and helping in the way that we do.
right.
So just a thought, like in terms of the town garage. So are you going to raise the old garages when you build the new garages?
We don't know.
We don't know yet.
Okay, and I understand that that's a few years down the road.
Too early to tell. I think that conversation to date has really been around the idea of maintaining it for cold storage, which would be for keeping other machinery there. It wouldn't be, it wouldn't be heated. It would, yeah, basically be like a big empty space.
Got it. Well, I mean, that would be perfect for us. Just saying.
I knew.
So,
Yeah, I was gonna say, because it sounded like, given the amount of equipment that you.
We don't
ideally
need to
you- but-
store the equipment indoors.
Oh, you-
So all we need is a concrete slab about 100 feet, 150 feet long. That's what we need. And we could pay the cost to pour that concrete. Like Wood for Good used the donation that we received to pour that concrete. And we basically would build blocks on one side and have blocks on the other, and then we could, use loaders. I mean, we'd also need the space to bring in the firewood that we process, but, total maybe like 2 acres, something like that. I mean, I think what we're on at the Davis farm is probably less than that. But the way that we would stack it in this way, we could get wood piles 50 feet high. Right, so then we would be able to greatly, with a proper firewood conveyor, we could get wood piles of that height.
Cool. So a couple things actually from my standpoint, coming and letting us know about this is probably the best thing. All right, now we know. Having a solution tonight, we just can't, we can't do that.
I wasn't
But-
expecting that,
No,
no.
I know, but what I'm saying is the best thing is let us know. Now it's on our plate. We can think about this, maybe address it and so on. And I also want to offer a little word of caution too, because as your good benefit increases, you're getting in the edge of almost impact, okay? When you start running equipment a lot of time, loud and so on, just be careful on permit things, okay? Where you are right now, you're safe. There's no issues with needing a permit because it's a business, because you have an impact and so on. But again, let's say you want to set up David's parcel and you're right behind Raceway development. Caution on that. Chainsaws running, equipment running all the time. You start to get into something that could be seen as not good for that area. So just
even as a not-for-profit.
even as a non-for-profit, right? Because your operation it's impressive. I'm really impressed on how well you've done growing this and the benefit of it. But because of that, it's getting to be big. So
Yeah. We try to be a good neighbor, and I appreciate that.
I don't doubt you.
I appreciate, every once in a while, someone's like, hey, chainsaws were a little loud. It's like, we'll finish a little early tomorrow for you. Sorry about that,
But you understand that. But again, it's the right thing in the wrong place can be seen as not a good thing. Where you are, it's a pretty nice spot. I've walked through that a number of times surveying in the back for the other side of the hill.
Yeah.
So I've walked through there numerous times. So it's a great location. I
Yeah.
agree.
I mean,
It could be drier.
it's an amazing spot, but it's just not big enough.
Yep.
Right?
Understood.
We've outgrown it now. We could probably continue to work there for like another year or two, but if we want to reach, the intent is to help the whole state.
Yep.
Right? And so it can happen from the Davis farm.
Yep.
So whether it happens from a spot in Jericho, or we find a spot in Essex, or we find a spot in Underhill, or maybe we lease some land from Villeneuve, that would probably be a little annoying for the neighbors, because that would be right there in the flats. But as far as I know, there's no noise ordinance in Jericho.
It is.
Yeah.
That is accurate.
Yeah. I know that because when they were building in our backyard and we asked if there could be something done, because they were starting at 5:30 in the morning,
Oh.
running bulldozers, there was nothing that could be done.
Yeah, they were hanging sheetrock at Dollar General at 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, jeez.
The noise ordinance conversation is a long and winding one.
Oh, yeah.
I just-
Doubles in the enforcement part.
Yeah,
But
right.
motor,
no police
the
to do it.
motocross bikes and things like that too, yeah.
Yeah.
You coming to us on this is a great idea. And again, it's on our docket. We
Yeah,
can look at options, or we can talk about this at another time.
awesome.
But
That's
I
great.
also suggest that, I know that donations have come in, but, as you said, to, maybe continue subsidizing, money in the future if you have to lease or whatever, to consider putting yourself into the not-for-profit section of the town budget.
Yeah, how do I, is that just online? I can
Yeah.
figure that out?
We can reach out to you.
Yeah, I never even knew about that, so that's
Yeah.
awesome, yeah.
Late for this fiscal year, but when we solicit, community partners next year. Anywhere from visiting nurses associations to mental health organizations to,
The
organizations.
tennis
that-
courts.
Yeah. Organizations that
Yeah.
work in support of kids and families.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. We can
Cool.
Definitely reach out. And we could, ironically, the space that you're talking about kind of checks the boxes in terms of sound and,
Right,
not having a lot of people around, aside from people using the trails network, there could be a little conflicting use there. People go out there to walk dogs and
Right,
experience solitude, and all those good things, but,
Yeah.
there's some.
One person's feel good thing.
yeah.
Could
Well,
be
I
another
know.
person's not feel good thing.
Well,
Yeah.
And on
I
the
know.
record, the notoriety piece is significant, so I still haven't seen it, but I heard you were on what, Good Morning America?
Today's show,
Today Show.
yeah.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How did they find you?
So, I mean, the story is about the kid, it's about what we're doing, but it's always been about the kids, because the kids were involved, right? So,
Son's idea.
well, it wasn't his idea, but it was his like, hey, I love this. I want to do it all the time. Right. In the very beginning, he's like, I want to do this every day, Dad, And so we were covered a few times on local TV. And so it was the local network, and then like the producers in NBC corporate who like kind of peruse those stories, who found it. Yeah.
I mean, it's a great way, of helping people feel good about what they're doing. I mean, and starting at a young age to, be interested in volunteerism.
I would much rather see young people out there doing that and helping them stay in shape than mom and dad paying for it at some summer camp.
Well, we
Across the road from our office.
we've had MMU out there twice. The Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts.
Great.
Boy Scouts are out there several times.
That's wonderful.
And like I said, the bulk of our volunteers are Jericho Underhill people who, I mean, a lot of them are really, really into it. It's awesome. But,
It is awesome.
people just come out as like, hey, just let me know. I'll drive the truck. I'll load the truck, and they all make it happen.
Well, it was 20. My God, it was that long ago.
Oh, Peter's got that.
Almost 10 years.
Uh-huh.
I did something similar for Mount Mansfield hockey team. Every year we raffle off a quart of firewood.
Ah,
And the hockey team had to help cut it and split it and deliver it and stack it. So it was great. But once I got done, my son got done, Bruce wanted to know if I still want to do it. And I'm like, no. And somebody else.
Peter's got his hand up.
Oh, yeah, Peter, go ahead.
Hey there, thank you. So I guess my question is, I think that the whole Wood for Good thing has been unbelievable, and I've watched it sort of blow up on Front Porch Forum for the past, whatever it's been, feels like 5-ish years now.
Yeah, thanks, Peter.
And I'm glad that it's as big as it is. I would be super disappointed if you guys had to go somewhere else. As a Jericho resident, I feel some ownership, even though I've never lifted a finger around the program, but I feel like it's a thing that I teach CVU over in Heinsberg, and other teachers talk to me about the Wood for Good over in Jericho, knowing I live over here. And I feel like that the idea about using the town garage area, which is sort of in flux right now, I would really encourage the select board and the town to sort of really think about that. And I think that helping this organization find a permanent space where they're doing good and the town is sort of providing that space, I think that all just works to the good around who we are as a community. That someone has been busting their hump for the last 5 years and has gotten big enough now that they need a bigger space. I think that is a really good use of town space and the town and town owned land. And I know that, it is perception is reality, but I feel like if I'm walking up in Mob's farm, which I do, and I hear chainsaw and I think that it's someone logging for $400 a cord, I have a very different reaction than I do if I think, oh, that's the Wood for Good guys. I'm so pumped they're working on a Saturday morning. So I think that the noise, while it is an issue, I think that knowing what's going on and who that is serving and benefiting, I think is a huge piece of kind of thinking about that noise issue. And I would really be thrilled if there was a way we could find a way to keep this as a homegrown Jericho thing and not lose it somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
And just to address the noise concern, like if there was something that we could do to make it better for the town, to make it like less painful, like we'd say, okay, we're only gonna run saws, you know, from like 11 to 3 or something. So like because the log splitters aren't really audible over long distance. It's really the saws. So if we had like a splitting time, if that would make it less painful, I think we would be probably open to that kind of a combination.
But
If that would make it easier.
I can tell you, same thing. I want to keep you here too. Okay.
Cool.
I would like to see Wood for Good stay here too.
Me too.
So if I want to donate my time, I don't have to go very far.
That's right.
What I'm dying to know is, are your boys as motivated to do dishes and clean their room as they are to split wood?
Definitely not. And they're no longer as motivated, but they still, they don't complain. And you know, Ivy, my stepdaughter, which is just awesome to see, like in the beginning, she's like hated it.
Yeah.
Like literally like was like, oh my God, I can't believe my mom's making me do this. And now, and now she gets it.
Swinging them all.
Well, she does swing them all, but she gets it, you know, she's like, wow, look at, you know, she's been on enough trips to see that, you know, the impact of the people we bring wood to. So it, you know, it's definitely moving when you're giving it away.
So you're on our radar.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Thank
the
you.
time.
Appreciate your time more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good night. You bet. Have a good night, guys.
You as well.
Thank you. All right, see you guys later.
See ya.
Okay, take care. All right,
Alrighty.
town maintenance facility cost and bonding.
So I know we've got, Matt Young is gonna be joining. I'm gonna text him, he's gonna jump on at 7:30, since we were a little bit ahead of ourselves.
I think we are ahead of ourselves.
No,
We don't have Eric.
no.
Maybe he's the cause.
Well, you were smart, you brought that.
No, it was in a pile of stuff I grabbed on the way out.
I filed it. I should not have done.
Mm.
Then I have to go find it again.
You can have this one, because I'm gonna take most of my notes here.
Oh, okay.
You can.
Yeah, I think I had one. 'Cause it happened when I was not available the first time. So it's,
So I'm thinking with your permission, Catherine. Is it possible to jump into the draft of the town?
Certainly.
That, because in terms of sequence, what I'd really like is before we start in-depth discussion about funding for the town garage, I'd like Matt to walk through the sort of cost prospectus. So
Okay, yeah.
we're on the record and people can see how he, in his role as consultant doing the feasibility study, got to where he did in terms of cost projection for the project, and then following, Brian and I can talk a little bit more explicitly about what that's going to mean for residents and
that's a good idea.
tax rates and all that sort of thing.
Because we do want to have on the record, really
Yeah.
good discussion about this, and it gives Eric a little bit more time to get here as well.
True that.
So we can, we're gonna, typically you change the order of the budget of the agenda before you get into it, but given the situation and the timing, we're going to move ahead with the review draft official town meeting warning and discuss having special meeting to official sign warning and post.
So, I wish I had the. I wish I had this document to project, but I didn't. So I can't really share it. Do you want me to go article by article?
Yeah, that way people, it's on,
Yes.
people can watch MCTV and say, oh, look.
Okay, great. So apologies for you at home. It'd be nice to be able to project this so you don't have to listen to me read. So the official town warning reads as follows. The legal voters of Jericho, Vermont are hereby notified and warned to meet on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024 to vote on the following articles at the Mount Mansfield Unified Union High School in said town of Jericho at 9 a.m. to transact the following. And these are the budget related articles. The first article will be, shall the voters approve the proposed fiscal year ending 2025 budget of $3,382,480, including spending unanticipated funds such as state and federal grants and gifts. Article 2, shall the voters appropriate $579,107 of the total $965,748,000 Underhill Jericho Fire Department budget to the department for the purpose of providing fire protection, suppression, emergency response services, and certified first response services in the community 24 hours a day, 7 days a week during fiscal year 2025. Shall the town authorize, Article 3, shall the town authorize the select board to borrow money for the temporary needs of the town? So these following articles are,
But we should mention Article 1, the actual budget number is still subject to change.
okay. Everyone get that? So
I mean,
until,
we've got the final, the last
Right.
little tidbits to work on.
until the budget is approved and the warning for the public meetings surrounding the budget are determined, it'll still be considered in its draft form.
Right.
Article 5, shall the town collect its taxes in equal installments due in the town offices on September 16th, 2024 and March 17th, 2025 with postmarks acceptable. Article 6, shall the town adopt all budget articles by Australian ballot? Article 7, shall the town adopt all public questions by Australian ballot? Article 8, shall the town exempt from property taxation the lands and premises owned by the Underhill Jericho Fire Department, which consists of the Jericho Center Fire Station building and 2.33 acres with an assessed value of $379,800 for a period of 5 years.
And I'm going to interrupt you here
Okay.
again, because Article 9, we probably need to discuss about the old Red Mill buildings and stuff, because last year, if they were on the warning and the voters voted to do it for just 1 year. And I suspect that they will want some kind of update based on their discussion.
Yep.
And we do know that Lori did a lot of deep dives as to what is able to be voted on and what is not needed to be voted on.
Yep. Yeah, Lori had mentioned that to me as well, Catherine. Article 10, to hear the reports of the town officers. I'm sorry, Article 9, to hear the reports of the town officers.
Well, it would be Article,
I'm sorry, what?
yeah, it would be, not, it would be Article 10 now.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
right, so that's moving.
If we put the ORM in there.
Right. And actually and I'll talk about this when I finish. And Article 11 will be other town business thought proper when met. The other article that we are waiting for final approval on is the article by which voters would weigh in on the approval of a bond for the new town maintenance facility. And I want to,
But that's Australian ballot though.
oh, right, okay, so we don't need to put it,
No, that's gonna be on the other, other section.
right, we don't need to discuss it.
But what we can discuss is the other thing last year was not, they had the food hub on the, as a discussion on the warning.
Mhm.
And they were, they've, after a lot of discussion, determined that the task force was the way to go. I think, to my thinking, where it says to hear the reports of the town officers, I think let Food Hub ask people if they want to hear a report and
Okay.
by voice from the Food Hub
Great.
to where they are, because the idea was to determine if Jericho could be a food hub and, let them know where they are, because
Okay.
it's taken them a long time to even come to this point.
Great.
But the moderator could, just say, this is what, like he usually does, hear the reports of town officers. However, the Food Hub people are here, and then they could, speak if you wish to hear from them.
Great.
So, because I have to meet with them next week.
Okay, so moving to Article 12, polls for voting by Australian ballot will be open on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024 at the Mount Mansfield High School from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. At which time the polls will close to vote on the following articles. So Article 12 will be the bond vote. And again, we're waiting on our council to confirm final language and cost estimates around that. Article 13, to elect a moderator for a one-year term. Article 14 will be to elect a town clerk for a one-year term. Article 15, to elect a select board member for a three-year term. Article 16 will be to elect a select board member for a one-year term of an unexpired three-year term. Article 17 will be to elect a cemetery commissioner for a three-year term. Article 18 will be to elect a Jericho Underhill Library District trustee for a four-year term. And there are two of those positions available. Article 19 will be to elect a Jericho Underhill Park District trustee for a three-year term. And there are two available positions. Article 20, Mount Mansfield Unified Union School District Board of Directors for a position for a three-year term. I gotta look at the language on that.
Yeah, isn't to elect.
To elect, yes. And Article 21, Mount Mansfield Unified Union School District Board of Directors to elect a one-year of an unexpired three-year term. Any
Any,
questions, comments, need for clarification on the part of people joining? I don't see any hands raised.
no,
Fairly straightforward. Great. So the special meeting to warn and post. will be on January 25th and.
No, you can't do the 25th
Oh,
at
is
all.
it, I'm sorry, it's the 29th, right? Is that
Right.
where we ended up?
Yeah, because Joe can't do the
23rd, 24th. Is what we're looking at, right?
that was for the budgeting if we needed one, but the 29th is because you can't do the warning until the 25th or after.
Okay.
So it'd be the 29th, but you can't do the 25th and I can't do the evening of the 25th, so,
And Eric's not here.
and Eric's not here.
Okay, we'll have to circle back.
Yeah.
I do see if there are no other questions or requirements around the articles as stated. I see Matt Young is here. Matt is joining us to help provide a rundown on construction costs and the design and implementation pieces for the proposed
Oh,
town
so
maintenance
they couldn't make it.
facility. Hey, Matt. Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Fantastic. So Matt, as discussed, my hope in having you here would be, this is we've talked about the construction of the town maintenance facility. We being the select board has talked explicitly about the need both structurally, functionally, and for the preservation of town investments in regard to trucks and heavy machinery and that sort of thing. Since you've been, for folks who don't know you and the work that you do, can you talk a little bit about your role to date as a consultant and the work you've done around feasibility study? And then when we get to the part to talk about cost and cost breakdown for the proposed construction of the facility, would you be willing to walk the select board through that?
Sure, yep. Just for a quick background, when I was in Vermont, I worked for a couple of the largest CM firms in Vermont. That was PC Construction or DEW Construction. And then I've been on my own for the last almost 9 years now as a consultant to owners, providing what we call as OPM work, as owners project manager type of services, cost estimating, and then help assisting with design management and project management for owners. And the last few years, I think the last 4 years now, I've been involved with several municipalities, acting as their we call it municipal project manager, or the acronym would be for an MPM. And essentially, the municipalities would hire me when they had special projects because they didn't have the staffing on board, but also to have a third party view on costs and construction and feasibility. Now, when it comes to garages, I have helped the town of St. Albans with their new garage. That was back about 4 years ago. Really helped them walk through the whole process of, preparing for the bond vote and, the strategy for that. And then that was followed up with the town of Georgia with their garage also, essentially doing the same thing. And I think Jericho actually reached out to me, I think almost 3 years ago or later.
Yeah, I think it was because
Yeah,
Todd was
yeah,
looking
Todd.
to do a structural assessment at that point with what the garage was like, because we had to replace those metal pillars in
Oh,
the,
yeah.
Right. So I recall I met with Todd those many years ago, and then recently you guys had hired me to do a feasibility study of your current garage and recommendations, and that's the report that I had prepared for the town of Jericho. Now, the benefits that you guys get out of this is that there's been a lot of lessons learned from town of St. Albans and from town of Georgia. And so I bring all that knowledge together and prepare them, recommendations that that I would encourage you guys to consider. That's not to say that, these are recommendations. You guys can obviously, you do whatever you want to do, but these are from my experience, the cost, and and maybe some of the strategies required to get the bond vote to be approved.
Great. Matt, before we jump into, picking apart, cost specifics and contributors to the, overall, project funding requirements, would you be willing to give kind of a brief, synopsis of the existing conditions as you experience them on the ground, relative to some of the other buildings that you've assessed in other communities, and what you see as being the most critical concerns and the most beneficial outcomes for the community of a project like this?
Sure. So if you were to turn to page 9 of my feasibility report, it kind of summarizes in 3 different areas. I broke it down between the existing facility, what are the concerns with that for the exterior, and then the interior and the life safety. And I think that for me, the most important portion is the life safety. There are a lot of issues going on with your current facility that I'm just, these guys heard me say this before, but I'm just going to be frank. It's probably one of the worst garages I've ever seen in the state of Vermont. I thought town of Georgia had a really bad garage, and you guys really topped it. I'm just, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Does that make us winners or losers?
You're the loser side. So you're gonna find from me, I tend to be very candid in my comments and in my report. So, but the most important thing, beyond that is just the life safety for the employees. It's not a safe environment. Things like there's not a bathroom there that's adequate, does not meet ADA. We don't even know where the waste goes to. That's a big concern. There's no. What's that?
I said, that's the weird part. We don't even know where the waste goes.
We
Do we
don't.
know what EPA is on? Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Matt,
I mean,
Peter,
it's otherwise.
Peter, I saw your
Ocean
hand
will
go up
be in here next
momentarily.
week.
Are you able to see, or do you have a comment?
Yeah, I can see the summary. Thank you. My question, which maybe is for later, is just sort of how did we get here? Is this poor building originally, or just we got caught not paying attention to the garage? But maybe that's a question for later, since you're kind of presenting now.
Well, actually, part of it's easy to answer because we were going to do it pre-COVID. And then COVID happened, and then it just got worse. Because we had already done some repair work on the garage with the rusted
Roof and-
pillars.
Yeah, the pillars and then the heating system and so on.
Right. And so as I said, Todd was here. He'd already started the process to get a structural analysis, and then COVID happened. And then, of course, not just COVID, and then, we had change of personnel and change in the board. And so all of a sudden, we're behind the 8 ball. It went down fast.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing, Peter, that I've come to understand is because there's, the town has been carrying a bond on the renovation of this building. I think the original plan was to try to get the bond on this building to the finish line before the municipality were to take on another municipal project of this size and significance.
That is correct too.
but.
And when is
resulting-
that? When is the current bond sunsetting?
28, 29.
Hmm.
So you know, in the audience, we also have our esteemed treasurer, Mr. Brian Stevens, joining us in the gallery.
So we'll have two bonds for the same building for a couple of years.
Well, no, that's the
No.
town hall is the one that has the bond.
I misunderstood. I got you. I thought John was talking about the bond for the current town garage. Gotcha.
No,
No.
no, building,
Yep, I got
the
you.
original
Town hall.
building has
68.
way outlived its useful life. And we, had known that for a while, but, we were just trying to stretch it out.
Great. Okay, Matt, back to you.
Okay. There's no drinking water on site. The water that's there has to be brought in. And there's no, the other thing is that the equipment these days, the most recent equipment, you drive them into the bays, there's literally no room for a person to walk between one bay to the other bay. And you can even see where, because of the plows, some of the wingtips of the plows have damaged the existing building. And it's really unsafe for the employees to try to hop over. They're basically literally hurtling over equipment in order to get from one apparatus bay to the other. The other most important thing is really the lack of having a Plimo vent and a gas exhaust system in there. I know that there's a heat sensor, but a Plimo vent is mandatory in order so that when equipment is running, you get an exhaust that goes onto the exhaust of that truck or that tractor, and it gets exhausted out of the building so that the employees are not smelling that fume. And then there's no fire sprinkler system at all in the facility.
Yeah, in the winter, that's critical too, right, Matt? So, because if they have to open the bays to vent a vehicle, then they're losing heat and have the thermal loss that they have to regain.
You're defeating the whole purpose of why even having a heated facility. And the other thing is, these trucks with the hydraulic systems and all the equipment, they have to be in warm temperature. You can't have them, frozen all the time. I know this because I own tractors myself, and you need to, if they're out in the cold, you need to let them run and warm up. And if they're sitting in a tempered building, there's less requirements of that, but it's really investing in protecting your investment, because you guys have millions and millions of dollars worth of iron out there, investments, and unfortunately they're literally kind of rusting out in the sun.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. So, by way of reminder for people who are joining, so we have, we had what I consider to be a very successful open garage, if you will, prior to the holidays, where we invited townspeople to come by, see the existing facility, get a firsthand understanding of what some of the structural challenges and functional limitations of the current facility are. And most importantly, get a chance to engage with some of the town road crew who are living and working out of the facility day in and day out, and are really able to talk from a place of experience about the current limitations. Matt, I'll move.
Yeah, can I add something to what you just said? So
Yeah.
And the select board has heard me say this before too, is that the employee retention and employee hiring is going to be critical for you guys. Especially if you ever wanted to have female, women working in the facility, or hiring younger folks to come in and work in the facility. It would be a struggle to try to bring someone new on board. with that facility.
John,
Yeah,
do we have another open house coming up on this?
we do.
What
Yeah.
date is that?
So the date on that is February 3rd, which is a Saturday from
Okay.
1 to 3. I was gonna report out on that later, but yeah, the goal is to have at least one more open garage opportunity for people to come visit and see the garage.
What was the time again?
1 to 3 in the afternoon.
Like last time, okay.
And then I have a public public education and forum scheduled for Thursday, February 8th. So that would be maybe a more expansive version of what we're doing here tonight, which would be doing a walkthrough of current conditions, talk a bit about the proposed project, costs associated, et cetera, and give residents an opportunity to ask questions of any sort as we get closer to a bond vote and town meeting day. Matt, I stopped at the map on the way to the cost breakout. I just wanted to provide an opportunity for people who weren't aware what the proposed location for construction of the new facility is, and where it stands in proximity to our current facility. So here is the access road to the highway department, the parking lot for the Mobs Farm, Hills Trails, which coincidentally may be getting an overhaul and an expansion to be able to provide turning radius for people with horse trailers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Mobs Committee's been working with that, and they've contacted Tyler actually to help with the engineering. So this is the current town garage here, and you can see the salt shed, some of the gravel piles here. This is the solar array, and this is the area B. Is the area that Matt had surveyed and designated as being most appropriate for construction of the new facility. He came out, the highway department crew helped do some test pits for analysis for septic purposes. Matt, I think the other pieces of the site that are probably worth mentioning from recollection. One is that we own it. Unlike a lot of other municipalities that you've worked with or seen, we're not in a position of having to commit additional funds toward purchase of a property. And I think the other two cogent points around this location are that there are no concerns about environmental compliance in regard to proximity to wetlands, rare species. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. You guys are actually a couple of steps ahead where the other municipalities were. This is some of the lessons learned, but we went ahead and did all of those research ahead of time to make sure that the area that we were looking at was a viable spot with good confidence. And so area B seemed to be the best location for the new structure.
So-
And then, oh, go ahead, Joe.
But Matt, I have a question, and depending on how the bond vote comes out and the rough cost estimate we have, is a rough cost estimate inclusive of doing a full engineering site plan and design on this? And is that anticipated that we will have that also?
Yeah. So if you go to page 16 of the report.
Yeah, I gotta pull this in tight here.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
The design fees of close to $165,000 is inclusive of the civil, the structural, and the
Okay.
architectural.
Let me see here. Oh,
Oh,
Bring the
sorry
back
about that.
come on back.
There we go.
Let's see.
Matt, the only other, before we dig into cost and, what's included, what's not. I did want to also mention that, you were able to determine that due to the size of the existing lot, we would not be, subject to Act 250 review either, correct?
That is correct. Yep, yep. We went ahead and did some due diligence with the state of Vermont. And I actually included some of the dialogue in there so that we have it in writing. So,
Right.
so you guys are protected.
Yeah. Which is, and again, just to give people some perspective, that type of review in and of itself can be rather lengthy, no?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
So we're
yeah, that,
saying.
so that's on page 14.
Okay, yeah, in terms of project advancement, oh yeah, here it is. Project does not constitute development because it does not involve the construction of improvements on more than 10 acres to be used for municipal, county, or state purposes. There's the documentation that you included from Stephanie Monahan.
But we will end up with a stormwater. Yep, we'll end up with a stormwater and wastewater permit.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, you go to the next page. I listed the other permits that you will be, you'll have to do.
So is this the rundown here, or where are we here? We'll get a question from Brian.
Yeah, just for a second.
Yeah.
Matt, on this, cost summary, I'm feeling better because it looks as though you have basically sort of about 10% of contingency. You've got one contingency above the construction cost line and another additional one down below. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Thank you.
That's right, we talked about that the other day.
Yep. And I also included inflation to the spring of 2025 in this cost.
That's good.
What was that? 3?
Yeah, 3.5% average.
That's pretty good.
So, and I'll tell you, like, for instance, during COVID, town of Georgia, you know, we went through some big headaches because the costs were astronomical. In fact, just give you an example, the under slab insulation on that project was over $100,000, and the vendors would not hold the price for longer than 12 hours.
Oh,
And so I made a recommendation to the town. I said, what I would recommend, because we weren't quite sure if once we repriced everything, if it would still make it under budget or not. And I said, I made a recommendation to the town. I said, if I were you, I would go and purchase it. You know, so we had several tractor truck loads of insulation there. And then plus we had to figure out a spot to store them. Because I said, if the project doesn't go ahead, you can sell it and you'll make money.
And Matt, this is the, just to clarify for folks who are online, so that's the insulation you use for the slab to maintain radiant heat?
Yes, under slab. So yeah, because the Vermont efficiency standards requires that underneath the slab, you have a minimum of R20. And because of the heavy loading, this garage will require what we call, actually, I think I spelled it out in the estimate. It's called it's a type 500 PSI slab insulation. It's quite expensive, but it achieves an R20 underneath the slab.
So Matt, were you also the project manager on that garage for the build?
I started out being the project manager, and then I ended up not being the project manager afterwards. They had a change of select board, and there was some friction with the select board members, and I decided to bow out of the project. I actually, to be honest with you, I fulfilled my contractual agreements with the town. And then I actually gave them 3 months of free service of my service, because I knew they didn't have money to pay me, because, you know, it's a bond vote, bond vote, you can't go a penny over. But I didn't want to leave them in a lurch either, so I wanted to make sure that at least the contractor was on board. And they got started before, you know, I phased out of the project.
Okay. But is project managing part of your scope on something like this?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do that. I provide pre-construct. There's a, you know, for instance, there's going to be about a year of, if the bond vote passes in March, you're going to spend about a year going through permitting and design. So that's a pre-construction phase. So I would be involved in that. And then after the project is bid out, then I could also be involved with the managing of it to make sure that,
Okay.
you know, to be a representative.
So Matt, I'm looking at the cost prospectus and the structural parts of the facility. It'd be great to get a synopsis and kind of a fundamental rundown on that as you see it. The other thing I would appreciate, because this question has come up a couple of times, and I'm guessing it'll come up again, based on you know, concern around tax valuation per homestead and taxpayer contribution. People have asked, you know, is there a plan B? Is there any potential or benefit to think about renovation or addition versus new construction? And you and I have talked about this at great length, and I'm 100% clear that there's no cost benefit in considering that. And it would be helpful for you to share your perspective and rationale, and yeah, and just address that if you could.
Sure. So if you were to go back to page 9, where I listed the summaries of issues and concerns, and that kind of outlines one of the reasons why renovation would not be a good investment. And one of the biggest things is that, first of all, the building itself, the existing building itself, is not big enough, period. So if you're to try to say, well, let's add an addition to the existing, well, then you're going to start creating problems, because then you still have bay spacings that are not wide enough, and you've triggered a full renovation, which means you're going to have to conform to the new building codes, and the existing building doesn't even meet the current building codes because it's already grandfathered in. It doesn't meet it through the energy efficiency. It doesn't meet it through the structural. And then if you were to, let's say, well, let's, you know, renovate the bathroom and make the bathroom bigger, that's fine, but then you're still taking away the apparatus-based spacing that could have been used for equipment. And then after I go through this, we'll walk through why I proposed the building design the way it's designed. So you're still going to have to spend money on a septic system, whether it's new or old. You're still going to have to spend money on a storm water system, whether it's new or old. You're still going to have to spend money on a well, whether it's new or old. And then you remove, let's say, all of the metal panels and insulation, and put in this, you know, metal sandwich panels that we're proposing for the new building. That's fine, but then you trigger that major renovation code, and you're putting on, you know, a new skin on a building that's not meeting code already. And I don't know of any structural engineer that would stamp that.
Yeah. And Matt, the other thing I remember you pointing out was because the depth of the building is one of the constraints that the crew is working under. So you would, in essence, to do the work or the renovation that you're discussing, you'd have to pour an additional slab forward of the existing building. You'd have to join the beams in the substructure to extend them if you could. I think we also figured out that the height calculation would be off, given the fact that the current height of the garage door bays is inadequate, right?
Right, and keep in mind that a pre-engineered building is really designed to the minimum, not really to the maximum. And especially back 20 some years and 50 some years ago, the standards were quite a bit less. And so
Right.
every girt that you see out there is super important. And to build an addition and have to remove that girt, you would spend more money on trying to do moment framing in order to regain the loss of stability that you just had before.
Right.
And then again, I don't know any engineer that would be willing to sign up on that.
So Matt, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this, but our interim road foreman Fletcher was in the other day, and these guys have worked last 11 days in a row, and Fletcher, living in Fairfield, has brought a cot and slept in the office a couple nights. And he was in the building last Tuesday when we had that big downslope wind event. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but Jericho and Underhill were two of the communities where the highest wind speeds in the state were recorded.
I heard.
Up 70 plus miles an hour. And Fletcher said he could literally feel the building heaving in the wind. I was like, wow, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
But it was,
My house, I can hear it move.
I mean, any house would, creak under those circumstances, but a little bit different when you're in a steel frame structure.
Yeah, and the other thing, I'm glad you brought that up. The other thing is, and I'll be the first to say, I never realized how committed a lot of these highway workers guys are. They're really incredible, and people don't understand that and realize that. All they worry about is, hey, if we get a foot of snow, 2 feet of snow, it gets plowed, but they don't realize those guys have been up all night, and we need to consider their safety.
You gotta get up the mountain, John.
Place. Yeah. What was that?
No, Joe was saying, he was acknowledging my ski addiction. I need clear roads so I can get up to the mountain. Fortunately,
Yeah.
we've got the crew to do it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing how they sacrifice their time, their family time, their safety, and I've seen some of these guys, they're sleeping inside their trucks because they're the facility they're in and is not adequate to take them.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. So moving back to, I like your suggestion, around the design. You want to, let me see if I can pull this in so it's.
Yeah, go to the next page right after that one. There's a horizontal. Oh, I thought there was. Oh, the hard print.
I
Okay.
don't think so. There we go.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So what we've learned, and this is again from the other garages, the optimum bay size is typically 22 feet wide by 60 feet long. And that's 22 foot on center by 68 feet long overall. What that allows you to do is you have a structural building that's efficient on the width. It allows for a 14 foot wide by 16 foot high overhead door to be installed and still leave room for the garage door opener to be on the left or right side of the building. And one of the municipalities, one of the bays, I don't know why we did this, but one of the bays was not as wide as a 22. And that really caused some serious problems, and it was a little too late at that time. So this is the recommendation I make is that every bay ought to be at least 22 feet wide and 68 feet long. That gives you adequate space for when the trucks are pulled in. And if you have to have the dump truck raised, if you go down on the bottom, this is why we do a shed roof. So that the, you know, dump truck can raise its dump if it needs to be for maintenance or so on. You get that headroom that you need. So you've got at least a 20-foot clear on the front and at least a 12-foot clear near the backside or the low side of the slope. The other thing is, if you notice on the green part of the plan, this is where all of your administration, bathrooms, break rooms, and offices is all in that part of the building. That way, the rest of your bays become true usable bays. The situation that you have right now in your current garage is you have 1, 2, 3, I think 3 or 4 bays are also being occupied by other uses that are not mechanical use. They're kind of mixed. You have like a loft scenario, you know, on the 2 bays to the right. Then you have a bathroom all the way to the left side. If that bathroom wasn't there, it would really help them to have space to be able to work on their vehicles. I would highly recommend having a wash bay, and it needs to be an enclosed wash bay so that the plow trucks can be rinsed off from the salt. That salt is just brutal when it comes to what it does to all the equipment. And that, again, it's an insurance policy and it's a maintenance process for your equipment. I'm recommending that you have I would call it 8 apparatus bays, and that count is based on how many trucks you have now, plus I believe 1 or 2 extra bays for future growth. And then you have the bay that's next to the admin office. This would be what I call the mechanics bay, and this is where you have a lot of the tools, you know, the tool benches and things like that, and all the safety elements, you know, in that bay. Any questions?
Not seeing any hands. Any questions from folks who are on? Let me spin back here. Oh, flip the whole document. It wasn't just that page. There we go.
So structurally, this building is a pre-engineered building, and it's cladded in metal sandwich panel. We find that the metal one, you achieve the high R rating, so we're getting away from like the existing garage you have now. We call those the pillow insulation. Well, they don't last very long. They sag, and then you don't get the thermal barrier protection you need. And so typically with this type of system, you'll have I figured a 4-inch or 5-inch metal sandwich panels on the outside, and we need 6 or 7 inches for the top to receive the R values that's required.
So this is the, so you got the substructure, you've got the shell, which you were just referring to. This is all the interior work that's required.
All the interior finishes, yep. Yep.
And then the plumbing services, HVAC, fire protection. Then this the E section, those are primarily amenities, correct?
Yes, yep. Yeah, you have the entrance mats, the building signage, interior signage.
How much is the?
Matt, can you talk a little bit about the site work? I
Remember?
don't remember
Okay.
having any explicit discussion with you. Is there, given,
Oh, the bond vote?
given the
Yeah,
expertise of the
4.5
crew
million.
and access to machinery, is there anything that, that they would be able to do on the front end in regard to site work? Or is it
No,
typical?
No,
My guess is
absolutely.
Given all the other municipal obligations, there probably not a lot of availability.
Right, that's the tough part. But you guys do have a pile out there that I actually would like to anticipate you using for sub-base and subgrade material. We have to get that tested, make sure, you know, with the third-party special inspections, that it'll meet the compaction. But, you know, that alone is worth multiple thousands of dollars. To have that right there is gonna be beneficial. And the other thing is, you know, you guys have a lot of sand out there, and that was great. That's why we did the test pits. And so there's gonna be a lot of savings of money, having the sand out there that I think we could utilize.
Matt, do we have a rough cost per square foot?
Yes. For the total project, all in, it comes out to about $282 a square foot, all in.
Okay. Okay.
The other question in terms of amenities, you know, there was some discussion when I was at the open house, as well as what John just mentioned about Fletcher bringing a cot in. Is there space for somebody to actually stay overnight, you know, sleep if they have to?
Yeah, yeah. And what I would say is if you look at the plan on the green zone, I call it, that's a 22 by 68 foot section. That's more than plenty of room to accommodate a decent break room, a conference room, 2 offices, 2 bathrooms. In fact, I listed in there, you'll need a mechanic room, sprinkler room, break room. 2
Yeah,
offices,
when you say
restrooms.
break room, you mean kitchen included in there?
Yeah, kitchen's in there, yep.
Right, cabinets, countertops, appliances.
Conference room, yeah. So it would accommodate space for folks if they had a crasher, they could do that.
Crash pit, yeah, let's see.
And there, I know part of the discussion, there could be, obvious challenges in regard to security and limiting access and space, but the conference room conceivably could be used for public meetings of all sorts, right? There'd be a way to access that conference room from the exterior where it could be sort of locked or partitioned off from other parts of that wing of the facility.
Yeah. Typically what we did is whether it was town of Georgia or town of St. Albans, there's a pretty good sized window to view from the office side into the apparatus bays. One mainly is for safety reasons, so that you always wanted the guys, you know, the foreman's always want to be able to look down the bay to make sure that, you know, the mechanics are safe, nothing ever happens and things like that. So but there can easily be a lock off there, so that if you wanted to use that conference space for public meetings, it's keyable.
Great.
The other thing that's kind of nice, I'll mention just quickly, is that these modern overhead doors, they're all Wi-Fi controlled, and it's actually really nice because any of the highway or the foreman, if an overhead door is raised for any length of time or even raised at all, they'll receive a notification, and they can actually close and raise doors remotely.
Wow.
From their phone?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a nice safety feature to have. And we did the same thing with the wash bay too, because in the wash bay, a lot of times, there's other departments within the community, within the municipality needs to, clean their vehicles too. So whether it's police, it's fire, we gave them a fob and they would have access to the wash bay. But then they don't have access to the rest of the apparatus. So you can secure it any way you want to for access.
Right. Great, Matt. Thanks for that.
Wow, that's impressive.
So before we break and talk about financing and those details, do you want to talk a little bit about the proposed schedule for implementation? I think
Sure.
you've already referred to a number of these guideposts.
Yep, right. So page 19, I kind of highlight and high level what to be expected if the bond vote was to pass. And so, the project feasibility study was completed between October and December. I highly recommend that you guys do outreach, during the months of January and February, and you've been following through on that. And then town meeting vote will be in March. If the town meeting vote passes, then the next kicker is to prepare RFPs for engineering services, get the design team on board, and then have a design kickoff. And this is where you can spend more time visiting other facilities. And this is also a time where you can tweak your facility the way you feel would best fit the town of Jericho. It doesn't have to be identical to the other towns. And then and that'll take almost a year to go through that process. And that includes a permitting phase too. And then the next item will be is to bid this project out during the month of February 25 and March of 25. That's really the best time to bid projects. And then construction would begin April, May of 25 and would go through to about January of 26, and you would move in February of 26. About 2 years from now.
Wow. That seems pretty aggressive.
Lot to get done between now and then.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's great, Matt. Thanks.
That's pretty, wow.
So why don't we take a break to give folks a chance to ask questions or provide comment? Is there anyone? Who's with us still? Let me tell you what, I'll stop the share for the.
That is interesting that it's recommended that the old standing ones not be demolished because they provide structural support for each other.
Yes. And that's still a viable asset that you guys have that you should use for cold storage. So I would not demolish it.
Just stop sharing here. Yeah, lost sight of all my controls.
Uh-oh. Oh, yes, way at the top, off screen.
Where is it, buddy? There. No loss.
Yeah, because I saw the gallery view up there.
Where is everybody? Where are my controls? Stop share.
Oh, there.
There we go. Great. So Matt, what we're up to you, whether you want to stay on and continue to join us. We're gonna cut to a conversation about financing what Brian and I have learned about the bonding process, what expected tax valuations looking like, and those nuts and bolts.
Okay, well,
I'm
I
good.
don't need to sit through that, but I was thinking about the processes for the, you know, let's say, you know, if this passes. You know, when do you really need to go and get the bond for the large portion?
Yeah,
And theoretically, that doesn't need to happen until, let's say, April of 25. After you receive the bids.
right.
Does that make sense? So you've got a whole year to get all your ducks in line and get your financial picture together and you know, from that process. So it doesn't have to be this year. Now, if the bond vote passes, the value of what you would have to spend during the pre-construction phase would be about $250,000, just to give you an idea.
Well,
And
that's
then the
good.
rest of it would have to come in April to build the building.
Right. Yeah, that's valuable, Matt. I think we were under, or I'll speak for myself. I was under the impression initially that part of the time-driven imperative for for approval was to be able to get into that April, May cycle of bonding with the bond bank.
Yeah.
But in our conversation with Ken the other day, yeah, he had posited that as well. It sounds like there's a couple different things that you can do that would have financial benefit for the town. That's what we're gonna talk about next.
All right. I'm gonna sign out.
Thank you for the presentation. That was
Yeah,
very
good.
helpful. I missed the first one.
Appreciate your time and expertise. That was exactly what I was hoping for. Thank you.
You're
Great.
welcome. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you for this, because I see the date on it and I was not here then.
Okay, I am going to,
That John gave it to me after one day and when I stopped in. I just threw it in front of me.
oh, okay, great. Brian, can you tell me, so I have this.
Yeah.
Is I guess, which document do you think would be most valuable to share?
I have,
You have it. It's likely that
It's
you
similar-
emailed, that you emailed.
similar
it
to this.
Okay.
I may not have actually emailed this, but I'm just, the reason I did another version was to simply show side by side the 20 and 30.
Oh,
Oh,
great.
that's good.
So if I could.
I mean, there are advantages and disadvantages. That's for sure. Hmm.
So I think what we've, should I start?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So I think what was interesting is a couple things. The more the more we learn, the better it gets is really what's happening here. First, we've done a couple things. First of all, by getting an update on the interest rates from Ken, it's changed the numbers and it's changed it to a good degree.
Hey, Eric. Hey, guys, go ahead. You can go ahead and start.
For those in the gallery, we've been joined by Selectman Johnson.
I like an entrance. Did you hear that? Entrance?
And
Yeah. Because of that, do you think, based on what they're talking about with the feds and everything, his last suggestion is, you know, I know there's different ways of, you know, maybe even making interest off of it, kind of stuff. So, you know, have all these it's a, you know, these are tough questions. You wait to see what the feds do next year? Maybe it's cheaper even then?
That's the tough part, and that's what just in these 2 months, the rate went down 85 basis points.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And so the timing is everything. I just don't want the town to be put in the position of having to take on more than what we had portrayed. On the other hand, it's a darn good thing that we didn't try to bind the bond, if you would, 2 months ago. So just as an indication, and I'm going to follow this very briefly. There's too many numbers on here, but I'll make it real easy. The cost of the facility is $4,645,000 as Matt has outlined. And the idea now is not to do a pay down, not to take the ARPA funds and to pay it down over, each year. The smarter thing is simply to apply it all to the beginning cost, so that the bond financed amount is less. That just makes more sense economically. The other interesting thing is, as Matt was talking about, he said, between now and shovel in the ground, or between now and actual getting the bond financing, there will be about $250,000 that be incurred. Well, I think it'd be prudent for us to look at using the ARPA money for those upfront costs.
Right.
And I've simply applied it against the full amount here, so that we are actually would be looking to borrow $4,145,000. Now, because of that change in interest rates, I wondered if the select board would want to even look at 20-year financing. So I just presented it here on this piece of paper. In year one, with 30 years at 3.92, which is 4.7, it's a lot less than it was. The first year bond payment is the $300,000, and then you can see it becomes less and less. And as we talked about last time, because the principal payment is a constant payment, it's the same. It's the 130. You take the 4,145 divide by 30, and that's the 138,000. It's not like a regular mortgage amortization, where the principal payment is different, and that's why each year the full payment changes and becomes less. So on a comparative basis, the first year payment for 30 years is 300,000, no, 301. For a 20-year, it's 359. Again, just for presentation purposes, if you look at number 4 down below, the total difference, if you went 20 versus 30, the total is 925,000. But again, there are all sorts of thoughts on this, and one is that you don't want you don't want to use a 20-year mortgage to pay for an asset that really has at least a 30-year life.
And one would expect more than 30.
And built in 1968.
I was just, so it's funny you bring that up, Brian. I was just looking at that. And I'm glad you put all this together, but I also consider, when we look at 20 to 30-year differences, what's next in line that we're gonna have to dole out for? We just did our town offices and so on. We do our town garage. Is there something else we should be looking at? Because that'll dictate, to me at least, looking at this.
Wastewater.
Well, there's a lot of money available for wastewater. Not necessarily.
That's
not necessarily.
exactly right. There will be something.
Yeah.
To come.
But we may not have to do the whole run of wastewater.
Again, what?
Yeah.
the town garage is to just maintain what we have now. Okay, we need a town garage to maintain our roads because our equipment plows the roads.
Right.
Wastewater is a,
Growth.
it's a growth thing. It's an extra right now.
Yeah.
So again, as Brian said, I look, we did the building, we do the town garage. Is there anything else that we have that's going to be a large bond vote coming up? And we don't have to come with it now, but I'm trying to think, is there anything else? And I don't see a lot.
I don't either. And wastewater, of course, people who are the ones who use the wastewater are the ones who pay.
They should,
Well, yeah.
they
Yeah.
should.
That's
Um,
that's the way the state typically, runs, that's how it's run
Yeah.
throughout the state.
How long was the bond on this one?
The building is 20.
So that was 20. It's been that long.
That will be done, as I mentioned, 28, 29. That will be the last payment date. So it was completed in about 2009.
Well, I mean, to go along with what you're thinking too, I mean, if you did the 30-year, yeah, it costs a little more money, but at the same time, if we went ahead with borrowing it all now, even at the interest rates, maybe you're not going to use it all, but maybe then you have the money to use for
Correct,
the wastewater to get started.
correct.
I mean,
I mentioned in a note to John, maybe that was earlier today, John, or yesterday. One way if you really think that the whole bond may be contentious, you might want to have a discussion, not whether you get the bond, but should it be 20 or 30? If you're looking at ways to.
well, and we've already had people certain folks who've said 30 is the way to go because it spreads it out over a larger population over time.
Well, yeah, it's with the priorities for people in a town too.
Yeah.
Again, do we do
Yeah.
20 to free up the next round of our wish list?
That's right.
Have we gotten much initial vibe of the town's folks that have heard about this that you can gauge? I certainly haven't. I
No.
haven't heard, like, no one's talking about it.
All-
I
would say anecdotally, the only kind of fiscally driven challenges that I've heard have been, what the additional tax valuation and per homestead contribution will be in relation to other anticipated taxes. The education tax has been a big discussion, but in terms of this conversation about longevity or total price tag, not explicitly.
Yeah, I think that's,
if you had to guess, like, if we had to guess whether it's gonna pass, I wouldn't know where to, I'm guessing it'll pass, but.
I know the real key is what happens with the education, because that one is going to jump 18%.
Yeah, that was a.
Yeah, that I still don't understand that. And if you covered it already tonight, I won't dwell.
We
on it.
waited for you.
No, actually, we decided that, I said, John said maybe we should have Edie come and talk. And I said, that's not a bad idea because they don't necessarily have a lot of people coming to the school
So-
votes either.
True.
And here, if Edie came here and talked about what it means to the community, then we could figure out how it impacts us, because they're talking about because of the cap, but yet they can't meet the cap, so they could essentially, for the same rate of increase, they could do, another $5.5 million of infrastructure,
Yeah, that was so confusing. I read it several times,
Look,
and I still don't get it.
I just want to stick with Brian for
That's true.
quick, but anyway.
We
I mean,
can cut down too many
Right.
trails.
So is there a general consensus, Brian, of what typical towns do for this? Is it 30 or 20 or 30?
I will find out, but so I can't really speak to that. There was a seminar yesterday. I don't know whether that was discussed at the length. But typically, I think that the larger the bond issue, the longer
Mhm.
the term. And that just makes it, I think, more palatable.
That makes sense because it was only around 1 million that we did for the building.
That's right. That's exactly right. One of the other things that I want to make sure we take a look at is under number 3, in recalculating the impact per, say, $500,000 property, under the 30-year term, it's an incremental $214 the first year. Now that's different. I think it was 300 before. I don't recall exactly.
Yeah.
275, 285, something like that.
For one, and then it was 300, I think, for the 20 years. But this has come down, and you can see it over the first, well, it's going to decline. That payment amount will decline as time goes on and the principal balance is reduced. Keep in mind too, that in 28, 29, the average for $500,000 property, again, the town renovation bond terms out, and that in the last year will make a difference of $44 in 2030. So that's a good thing, and I think that also goes to your point, Joe, that at some point, you know, these bonds end up being paid, and the question is, well, how much suffering do you want to do between now and when that bond is really totally paid off, so that you can free up some dollars to do something else which will come along, certainly.
Yeah. Do we do things concurrently or one after another?
It all depends what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Well,
I mean, we don't know. I mean, the town hall renovation was the very first bond since 1760 something, you know, that Jericho ever did.
really?
Yes, it was the
Oh.
very first bond.
I remember John Burke and I actually talked quite about that because some people were having a tough time understanding it, but to me, having your deed safe from burning is a big deal. So,
That's right.
and I think having our town garage,
Oh,
So do we need to decide on 20 to 30 before we put it to the vote? Is that something we could decide after?
Well, so that's what I'm waiting to hear back on. I think the language of the ballot article would drive.
Would include the
So-
term.
So I looked at I used the language for the article for the bond vote. Jessica found the article for the bond vote on this building. And it didn't say anything about the term of the bond. All it talked about was the total cost. And whether or not, and who knows, maybe, I wasn't here, so I wouldn't remember. Catherine, maybe you remember, but I don't know if there was any explicit understanding on the part of voters whether it was going to be a 20 or a 30-year term.
Oh, that's interesting, because here's a case where there are two numbers involved. One is the total cost of the project.
Right.
And the other is the amount to be financed, which is 10% less in effect.
Yeah.
That's right. And the current language that I proposed and is under review with Brian Monahan right now does acknowledge the $500,000 difference between the total project cost and the amount that we would be bonding. Actually, I have that. I can even share that article.
Yeah, I came onto the board during the bid process. So I think the whole number was financed. But I don't remember what the actual thing was.
I mean, I think I think I was gung ho on the 20 when I first started thinking about it. And I think now in sort of thinking through the, the point that, I'm terrible with names. I forget the woman's name on the Underhill Select Board when we were talking about the truck, and is there a way to like extend that loan out to the length of the useful life of the truck? And I think that kind of got me thinking more back towards the 30. And I think especially with the other increases that are going to hit this year, I think 30 is probably the answer. Personally, that's what I think.
I'm leaning towards that too, especially since we have a existing bond. We got another five years on this one.
Yeah.
So I would lean, and again, didn't we have a discussion? There's nothing stopping us from paying this
Doing it early.
early.
Yeah.
If we, every 5 years we don't pay, we can put $300,000 towards it,
You
right?
can kind of look at that chart and figure out what it does, right? You can look at Brian's
Yeah.
thing and say, okay, well, so for every principal payment of $207,000, it looks like it drops 8,000 off the payment.
That's a way to look at it, about $8,000, and it's true for the first 10 years or so.
Probably forever, I assume, because
It changes a little bit, but
Because of-
essentially,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I want to share go back to sharing the amortization schedule and that information, but this is the language that I submitted to
oh, okay.
Brian for review. So again, there's nothing explicit about the way that the bond is structured. And the other thing that I'm waiting to hear back from him on is, does there need to be something in the language that implicitly illustrates the use of the ARPA funds committed?
I don't, my quick opinion on that is that
Probably not.
because again, we're going to be washing it through our income statement, our statement of revenues and expenditures, so that no longer is ARPA funds at that time.
Right.
So I think we're okay. I don't, let Brian certainly take care of that.
Yep.
But I think probably not needed here.
Yep.
I like it just like this. The only thing
I just-
I would suggest, and I apologize if I should have read this earlier, I didn't.
No, it's okay. It wasn't included in your packet.
I would do a little more round numbers since they're estimated. I wouldn't say like, the facility is estimated at 4,645, 792. I might just do,
Okay.
46,500. I don't know, something like that. Like
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
had the actual bill and like contract, that's one thing, but since it's estimated.
yeah, not to exceed 4,150,000.
Right, yeah, for the top part, and then the bottom part might
Yeah.
be 4650 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
And
But other than that, I think that's fine. You're
Yeah, I
right. We
can
don't
do
need to
that.
get into,
And that could well be the feedback that I get from the counselor. So I think I talked about this in the last meeting, but there are 5 designated bond counselors who are attorneys or law firms within the state that have the expertise to provide guidance around bond article statements and how they're structured.
and I think you said Monahan was one
Right,
of them.
exactly.
Yeah, I think you
Brian
did mention,
Monahan,
Yeah.
who's Claudine's partner, happens to be one of them, which is
that's handy.
obviously a benefit for us. So I'll have I should have his input back by tomorrow. I can report out.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think round numbers make sense.
okay.
I think when you're dealing with estimates,
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
So
So now, so the key is, you don't necessarily, as you said, have to make the April, May, June, whatever it is. Bond thing, do you, or do you,
We had the crystal ball,
yeah.
Yeah, will they be going down or will they be going? I think they're gonna go down.
I think they are gonna.
I mean, assuming they
Maybe
follow
they're not
the
gonna
rest
go
of the
down to March,
economy.
But they very well, I mean, the the percentage of folks who believe it's at least May is a lot higher right now than it's happened in March. In terms of the feds
I
changing
just-
the things.
Here to throw some more gasoline on it, I'm wondering.
Yeah.
If in an election year, the interest rates would theoretically be as low as possible. After you just don't know,
Yeah.
is that a way to think about
Are
it?
you talking about-
Exactly.
are you
So
talking about my
that's right.
election?
So you
Because I
probably
am
ought
up
to
for election.
So you want to really look into it this year. And as you said, if we don't use it this first year, then maybe we make some interest on it.
Maybe we invest it, yeah, or
Yeah,
We just decide, how far out do you slide? Depends on when the feds meet again.
yeah.
Brian, you had referred to this, but can you speak a little more specifically about the implication of the sunsetting of the renovation bond? So this figure here, the 4423, say after 28, that'll no longer be reflected in
in the
value,
tax rate.
in the tax rate.
So that what we'll see in the total taxes to be collected, we'll see about $62,000 less, which translates to for $500,000 property, about $44. So if you're looking at the combined bond repayments,
So if you're looking at this schedule here.
well,
so
yeah,
20
that will stay, that won't change. But if we look at what the total bond repayment is for the both of them, that total does go down by the $44.
Gotcha.
I'm just, it never ceases to amaze how much interest rates affect the economy.
Right.
And, an 85 basis points in a home mortgage over
I mean, when it's the only lever that the feds have, it kind of makes sense. Right? They don't have any other levers.
Yeah.
Like, we've got this one idea in mind. It's
Maybe at that point, you put that into a reserve fund or something like that, if you don't want to, if you don't want to reduce what people are paying, it depends on how people, because there are, as you said, things that are coming up, we don't know.
That's right. One other quick note, by using the 500 of ARPA, that still leaves us with about 200 left.
Okay.
So, and, that's sort of our own contingency, our cushioning just in case, maybe the costs go up more than what the contingency that Matt had built into his plan. So,
yeah, it would be nice to have some leftover for whatever we decide to do at Railroad Circle. We'd
Right.
rather not dip
Yes.
into
Right,
tax.
exactly,
space,
yeah.
exactly.
or whatever we end up deciding to do there.
Yeah, and I still wanted to do the streetlights in the center that we, Paula tried to get a grant for a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Because that does light up a whole lot of the pedestrian walkway by the green.
Just today, funny you say that, going up to the concert that I had to go to, I crossed the little crosswalk, the little bump, and I was like looking over at the store, and like right there was a couple and their dog, and like, I mean, I did not see him. I don't think I was close to hitting him. I was like in the road, but just
It's dark.
is so dark. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
they startled me just by being there.
They really are dark on that side. They
Yeah.
really do need streetlights on that side, and it's not been nice because that's the oldest part of town, and it's the only part of town that doesn't have
The lighting.
the pretty lighting.
Yeah.
So at one point it was like 25,000, so I don't know what it is now, but
25 per, right?
no, total.
Oh, total.
It was a small grant.
What agenda item are you guys on? I'm sorry I'm late.
So we're on,
We changed.
yeah, we switched around. We're on the update on, town maintenance facility cost and bonding,
Okay.
but we've already,
I think we got that.
reviewed the draft, town meeting warning.
Okay.
So Brian, anything else? critical to share at this point with the select board or to townspeople?
No, I just, thank you for reminding me or actually sending me the schedule from
Oh, yeah.
that Matt had.
Yeah.
That really clarified things so that there's no interference basically with the idea that, well, if they approve the vote, we gotta put something in the budget for 24-25. That's probably not the case because we'll have the ARPA funds. We'll have the funds available to make any payments needed in advance, you know, the planning and design
Right,
work.
the engineering.
All can come out of the.
So that should not have any impact on the budget for 24-25, given the schedule that Matt's outlined. So.
That's good.
I
So,
think that.
so are you saying that with the tax, so the taxpayers are gonna vote it, let's say they vote yes. That shows up on this year's bill or that does not?
It will not show, well, what this year being,
We get our new bills in August or.
right, it should not, it would not show up on the 24-25 year for which you're making the payments in September of 24 and March of 25. It should not impact that.
Yeah,
So-
but in fact, that's another
don't think I
way of
understood that.
talking about that, is that, yeah, because we're just gonna use, based on the schedule, there's no, it's all preliminary design and permitting and stuff. So it's about 250,000. And so that's strictly ARPA. So we need to have the vote so that you know to go ahead with all this, because you don't
Sure.
spend that kind of money without,
Without knowing that you're gonna get to do it.
Right.
Okay.
but it's not going to, the nice thing is we can go ahead and tell people it's not going to hit the budget until FY 26.
Yes,
Or in their terms, next year's tax bill, like
Right.
next
Yes,
year.
Yes.
Fiscal year 26, yeah.
Yeah.
I must say, I was not clear on that until the schedule. And that's why it just works. It just meshes quite well.
Mhm.
But it's important to get it passed so you know that you can do this.
Agreed.
Cool, love it.
Yeah.
Any decision that we need, that was just that was just an update, so there's
Yeah,
nothing
that was-
there's nothing you're looking for a motion or anything on this.
But thank you, Brian, for all the effort and then figuring
This
out.
schedule is so
figuring
helpful, I
out how
love
to
this kind of
watch All
stuff.
that income through.
and waiting till
Yeah, it
9.
just makes it so like
You know,
consumable.
This is,
Tangible.
I like
This is-
Fred anyway, so I.
yeah, oh, Fred's great. Fred's great.
It is fun to spend.
But this is fun stuff. This is our legacy, right? The town garage.
Well, it just occurred to me, I'll be like 88 when that thing's paid off. Crack a beer and say, hey, wake up, tell my wife. Well, guess what? The bond's paid off right now.
It was my legacy.
Is there anyone that's still on that has any question, comment? And we proceed.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good
Brian.
evening. Stay warm.
Done.
Yeah, it's supposed to get pretty darn chilly. Oh, yeah.
So, Select board updates.
Yeah. Again, talking about how much more money things cost.
Yeah, money, 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 money. Yes.
Now,
Well,
see, that's what's supposed to hit the budget in 2026.
What's that?
well, again,
The truck.
yeah.
Oh.
So I did reach out, a little update on the truck. I did reach out to both Allegiance and Charlie Boys to say, hey, this is where we are with the truck. We're not looking for taking it right now, next year and so on. And Sandy did reply back to me. So my question was, or statement was, will the quote still be good? Which I didn't think it would be. And truck delivery. So he replies back, yeah. He said, yes, by March, we will have no slots left for this year. So if we wait till March,
Great.
we're running again. He said we can take orders for the first quarter 2025 at that point, but pricing for next year won't be available till this August. We can generate an early cover letter, like the one he attached before. This will allow us to lock in this year's slot for you. So basically,
So what you
August.
just read, does that tell me that in August?
we can have it
Place a delivery, or place an order for
Mhm.
delivery.
in 2026. I think more likely 2026.
Because we want it to be
So-
2026, because that was the whole plan.
So
Yeah, so
we
so 2
revisit
years?
this.
So not quite 2 years?
Yeah, not quite 2 years. We revisit this. So I'll have on my calendar to revisit this in August to hit both entities up again.
Okay,
Okay?
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Great.
I better
Because
put,
by that
Yeah,
time
I
we-
mean, I have to say, and I appreciate the concern of the highway department, and they're doing the right thing, getting it in front of us. But I think if we would have gone with it, we would have ended up with the truck before we're ready to pay for the truck.
Right,
Based on what I'm hearing,
because that's what happened before,
yeah. So
Well-
I'm glad that we.
because the truck came
paused
in
and-
early, we were expecting it to be in the
Right.
next budget year.
Yeah,
And the other potential benefit, Joe, and I think you and I discussed this, is that it may, if the bond for the town maintenance facility were to pass,
we would have a place to
then
put,
we could get a full-size truck at less
Yes.
cost.
well, it'll never be less.
Oh, is that right?
Well,
Well, anyway.
prices always go up.
Well, right, so the
Yeah.
price would go, but,
But we
my
wouldn't-
impression was that,
It would be less than the custom.
Yes.
right.
Yeah, we wouldn't have to do a custom 1 foot loss on the box.
Right, exactly.
On the,
Okay,
from
so that
biking.
was only on the box, it had nothing to do with. the-
Yes,
in the
I think,
but I
I
have
didn't
I have
understand that.
zero interest until we know for sure that the bond were to fail or something. In ever getting another one that we're paying extra for the.
agree,
Yeah,
Plus the fact that they have to make more trips.
they gotta make
and-
more trips and we
Cost
pay
more
more
gas.
for it and I mean, that's just a no brainer.
Yeah.
And I know that probably does mean extending out, asking for a little more life out of one of our older vehicles. I get that, but I think I get that when I say
You
that.
wanna see what I just went through to get my 12 inspected?
I bet. Yeah, I had to do all that on my same exact truck and mine's a
Lots of
15. I had to redo my brake lines. I had to yeah.
I just did mine. I
Yeah,
just did my
I know, you
brake
told me
lines.
Oh, my gosh.
In fact, mine's due for inspection now.
Lots of clamps and tin cans.
Yeah. So I know that does add some maintenance cost to the older ones, but I think it's worth getting the
Oh, I
right
do
for-
too.
for,
Well, then we're coming up and again with the town garage with the 18%. I think we should be waiting to.
Well, thank you for taking that on and, really working this through and figuring it out, because at least I got my question answered about the California, the carb.
oh, yeah.
And
standard.
that we may revisit that too.
Yeah.
In
But,
August.
but as you said, right now, the one, had less horsepower and, than the others, I mean, the
Yeah,
different
yeah.
engines and stuff.
Yeah, there was no huge advantage between going with the one. And again, that doesn't mean that between now and August that Freightliner or International comes up with a different engine
Right.
too,
Yeah, and as I understand it, they're using their credits to meet the standards anyway right now.
Yeah.
Which is what it was when I first started. Back then, they used different credits. Oh, good. So do you have any other updates you want to share?
That's about it. Oh, I did start reading the septic
Or did you?
preliminary. Yeah, it's gonna take for me a while to chew through that. So,
That's what I was afraid of.
I
hadn't had a
did not
chance.
start. I did start one day and got interrupted and haven't gone back to it.
Yeah, I haven't either.
It's-
I actually, I set
Has
myself to
anyone
go,
from the town,
is to clean my desk.
have you looked through it? Anyone on staff looked through
I
it?
have.
Can you,
Can you give me like a 4-sentence summary? I'm just kidding.
Well, I think, it's interesting, because for funding purposes, the engineer, John Ashley, reached out to Linda and I. And he kind of wanted us to hedge toward what appeared to be the priority, given the 3 village centers
Mhm.
and the research that's been done to date. And again, I think given given the focus on the Riverside area,
Right.
that seems to be sort of the clear, not winner, if you will, but the clear area of focus for the immediate future.
That makes sense, because I mean, the select board even had to go to the school
If,
board wants to, emphasize how important it was to, think about using the Brown River.
Right, and that said, what I don't know is they were supposed to have conducted. They were supposed to have conducted all the testing on Browns River Middle School by the end of the school year. I haven't circled back to John Albany to see if there are any results.
if you would, John, I kind of like to be really part of a lot of this.
Yeah.
So if you have any more meetings with John,
Yeah,
you'll end up. I'd like to be part of it. Knowing my relationship with what I do for a living.
Yep.
I like to be part of those meetings if I could.
so
Part of why
we're-
we picked you is we need someone with that kind of.
Yeah,
It is.
that's right.
So the other thing that we're moving toward trying to schedule is to do community engagement meetings with residents in each of the village centers in and around the designated sites to talk about what the implications will be and give them an opportunity to, ask questions, get them answered.
Because, I mean, for me, the questions I'm gonna be having is, if this is the target area, have we seen a rise in failed systems in that area?
Hmm.
That's gonna dictate a lot of need right there. Is there a water system, community water system already there that the community wastewater system would work in conjunction with the community water system to increase density? Again, the minute we go, once we start to go with a more of a municipal system, our density goes up, we get housing,
Mhm.
and these are our target areas for our housing because we have services there. So that's again, those are questions I want to talk to John about.
Yeah, because you have the first two systems, the Riverside and the Corners both have water.
Okay.
They both have water systems. Because the Corners has the Champlain Water District
Mhm.
and Riverside has the Underhill Water District.
Okay,
So they both have water. Jericho Center, nada.
yep. And you,
And if you, and in terms of actually potential for growth, obviously Riverside is the largest potential. And
along with the zoning, it's kind of already in place
That's
because of the form base.
right, and then, but the Jericho Center is more limited in its development capacity. But what would help the center more than wastewater, because a lot of people have already put in brand new septics over the last few years, is that you bring Champlain water up to the center,
Mhm.
because then that starts taking away the wastewater conundrum between wells.
The well shields.
Yeah,
Yeah, every time you put in public water along the road, you reduce the well shield area, more area for septic.
right,
And the neat thing about water over septic is we already own the road.
yeah.
We don't need to buy any real estate to put the water line in,
Right.
typically. We already got the road.
And water is already at Morgan Road.
Oh, that's right, too.
The
Yeah.
high school, must be at the high school.
Yeah.
There should
Does
be
it
that.
come up,
But does it cross the river? It must not yet, right?
doesn't come up Shillhammer and up that way up by Jeremy Newman's?
Don't think
I don't think so,
so.
because there's
I
always
know
the old Varney Road.
Yeah, I
Used to
know.
go through.
That's
it.
right. Not much of a road anymore.
Okay, but anyway, as far as that, John, if meetings with John Ashley, even if you want to set one up so I can
Sure.
get caught up, I would be interested in that.
Yeah, Linda would be amenable to that, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, because,
Yeah, Linda and I need to get together to discuss some potential dates for that to happen.
Okay.
And again, try to balance, budget hearings and budget meetings.
We can wait till after town meeting if you want.
Yeah, we have what's the other audit? It's it's the warning for the meeting for the Riverside sidewalk.
Oh, it's
Oh.
upcoming.
So
That's-
another project that's gonna.
Is that the one where we had going down Silly Hill or, you know, or
No.
round
this-
15, or that
Yeah.
it, yeah, the 15 or the other road?
But closer to the, closer to the market. Connecting that area of the market.
You're talking about
where
that first sidewalk that I got here for, you know, that one.
That one,
Yeah.
that one. Oh,
Connecting
that's right,
them,
because that's already in process.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of sidewalk up there. Because you gotta follow through the other sidewalk.
Yeah.
That, you know, that Joe looked up and stuff on there. So,
but again, I don't know where we stand with the Lee River one. I haven't.
Yeah.
Don't know if they want information on that right away or not.
Sorry, so
The
then,
Lee River sidewalk,
yeah,
if, I don't know where we stand with the sidewalk right away with and addressing that, if we were gonna allocate a little bit more money to send VHB surveyors to go look up the references that I sent, or,
actually, I also have not had time to circle back to Dan in the new year.
okay, that's fine,
Yeah.
just.
you've already looked it up.
Well, there's some information again, it's, I don't know if they allocated funds, I know how sidewalk budgets work. I worked enough of them when I was at Du Bois and King, that, it's a kind of a back way of proposing the delineation of the right of way. And that puts the onus on the town typically, which is a bad practice. Town staff are not expert researchers. They do not know what to look up for right of ways.
That's
And I-
probably true.
And I used to work for Du Bois and King. I would get into it with this Evan Dietrich, who's now at VHB, who's part of the transportation.
Oh,
And Evan
He
would
works for
present me,
Dan.
yeah, he works for Dan. He would present me with a budget for the survey to do a sidewalk project, and I'd look at it, there's nothing for right away. And he would tell me the town has to supply it. I said, well, Evan, they can't. We have to have something, so I would force a way into my survey budget to get, half a day of research to try to figure out the right of way. So I know how the system works.
Yeah.
And if I do think it's worth it, if we have to allocate $1,500 and say VHB, here's a separate allocation. Here's what Joe Flynn sent. Get your surveyor on this, see what it does.
ground truth that
Yeah, exactly, John.
will do.
Sounds good. Because it would be nice to move forward in that and not be looking at having to put money back in the
Yeah,
state coffers.
yeah, that would be well, I hate buying right of ways twice.
Yeah.
And V-Trans does this a lot. I can't tell you how many times I've seen original roads laid out at 4 rods and someone resurveys it for the state, and because they're spineless, we end up with a 3-rod road and we have to buy easements for culverts from private landowners. We already have it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so anyway,
It was technically in the right of way to begin with.
yeah, my diatribe for the day.
Point well made.
Mm.
Catherine, do you have
Uh,
updates?
no, I mentioned that this was coming. This is Farms and Fields, and it will be up through April. And we'll probably have a artist reception in beginning of March. But the biggie is the town tea on Sunday to honor Wayne,
Oh, this Sunday?
this Sunday.
Okay.
What time is that?
I think it's noon to 2,
No, it's
Not
2
really. 2 to 4.
2 to 4. Because Jessica is picking the fruit tarts up at noon, be back here by 1, start getting it organized in the room. And so it's about 2.
Okay.
Because I have to make some food and stuff too. And then she's also looked up the whereases that
Yeah.
they did for some of the other folks that were honored like that, and is putting it in for Wayne.
Yeah, I think that'll be nice.
Is there a dress attire? If I show up dusty from the wood shop, is that okay?
It's a town tea. You could.
Okay.
And, you know, it's again, people will,
As
have.
long as
it-
you can raise your pinky, Joe, you're good. to go.
Okay.
That's right. And also the town tea is also for people with petitions who need to, you know, have their final petition put in for their, you know, running for what.
That's right. It's
Whatever
Right.
office.
a little more than a week away from that.
I got it.
Oh, this,
Yeah, so we need to go with
this
that.
is the 18th and 5:30 is already passed.
Yes, and I actually, Jessica left me a note, letting us know that she has received no petitions for warning.
Oh, no petitions for warning. Oh, that's good.
So we're still, just you and me still,
When's the deadline for
Reminds me
the
of a joke I've heard.
29th.
Yeah.
29th? Yeah, so yeah, do we know if there's any other people running for the two yet?
I
or-
asked Jessica the other day and she said nothing yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
For the 1 year or the 3.
Correct.
So you hold off on sharpening your sword.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are the biggies, and then, the other thing, I talked to Linda yesterday. And I had, Wendy came to our meeting on, the Jet Force meeting on Monday. And, because Peter, one of our members, went to the Affordable Housing Committee to talk about, ways to, you know, how do we get rid of fossil fuels in new construction? Because other towns are already doing it. We don't know, I have to talk to Ann Janda to see if there's other smaller towns doing it, because right now it's the larger communities that have a lot of resources. But based on the discussion, because people are trying to balance, well, how do you balance affordability and, you know,
Efficiency.
efficiency? Because, you know, you're asking 85% of the new home to be renewable, which means electric kind of thing. And so, based on our discussions on Monday, Wendy brought it up at the Planning Commission meeting on Tuesday. And so the Affordable Housing Committee and the Planning Commission and the Jet Force will have a large group meeting to talk about what kind of questions we need to answer, who's best suited to do, you know, that particular, you know, answer, and then, you know, and then everybody goes out and collects information, and then we get back together and figure out how best we can, you know, become a community that is moving forward. Because as I told Linda, since people can sue the state, if the state doesn't meet the climate guidelines that passed in the law, they can be sued, and that means they'll push it right on down to the municipalities, so we might as well be prepared to do something.
Just me.
So that you're more proactive rather than all of a sudden the state says you will.
Yeah, Peter asked to meet with me to talk about some of that stuff, and you know, I was pretty upfront with him. I'm super interested in climate anything. I think for Jericho, our biggest challenge is affordability, and
Yeah.
I would instantly be opposed if it added to the cost. But I'd be certainly willing to have the discussion and hear about it. I want to hear about it. I'm not, you know, but I don't
Right.
I don't want to put more burden. I don't want to put another obstacle in the way of
Oh,
affordable
absolutely.
housing. So I had a great discussion about it, and so I'm sure he brought a good.
Well, and I think some of the ideas is, you know, as Linda said, you know, you could incentivize
Yeah.
with density bonuses, the affordability aspect,
Mhm.
making affordable homes, and so that if they do it under, you know, with renewables. And of course, then the idea is that you build smaller homes too to start with,
Right,
because like
right.
Sunnyview and all those are smaller homes to start with.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of
Agree.
different ways.
So are those things that can be addressed through the upcoming bylaw modernization? effort?
It's possible. I mean, you know, because it has to eventually go to zoning and be, you know, regulated. So I mean, so it can, it's really be considered as part of that. So. Yeah, I think I've covered most of it.
Go ahead.
Can I, that's okay. Can I just ask what we ended up with on, what do we need for meetings?
We have not yet done that.
Okay, we're doing that after select board updates?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or is that, we're doing it right now when John goes?
Oh, we're doing updates and then we'll go back to that one.
Okay,
Okay. Do you have anything?
nope, I just want to know about that.
So I have a few things. One is I need to, so we have, an agreement, with a engineering firm that's gonna be doing the preliminary, scoping study and research for the dam removal in the Jericho. Dam
Oh,
Port.
yeah.
So the RFP went out. Karina Daly, who's leading the initiative, from the Natural Resource Defense Council and working with the Conservation Commission, did the RFP review. They chose Fitzgerald, Environmental Associates.
Oh, Evan?
Yeah, do you know them?
Yeah, really well. Yeah,
Is that a good, so that's a good thing.
yeah, Evan's good.
Oh, great, fantastic. So anyway, we are, so I wasn't clear, the grant funding had already been approved. We have a contract for, signature in the amount of 26,000 for, Fitzgerald Services. I wasn't sure if I'm authorized to sign that, given the, grant funds have been. So the application for the grant was.
Yeah, 'cause we just said-
Received 30-ish thousand with a contingency for administrative cost.
Yeah, because I think what did we do? We passed the, go ahead, and, apply for the grant kind of thing. So, but nothing has happened since it's come back to authorize who signed for it, but typically it would be unless otherwise said, it would be the town administrator.
Okay, so I basically wanted either your permission or give it to you to sign off on, given the size of the contractual.
Well, I guess,
I think since we got the money that we approved,
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. Brief update on Chittenden County Communication Union District activity. So I can't remember if I emailed out, but the CUD is basically in the position now of reviewing RFP proposals for basically for doing the fiber installation for broadband outreach. And they are, I think they got 4 proposals, and as opposed to doing one big meeting, I think they're gonna have 4 mini meetings over the course of the next 2 weeks and consider each of the RFPs independently. So that process continues. I think I shared with you the news about the grant approval for the Leahy Institute for Rural Initiative grant that Wendy and a couple of the other planning commission folks put forward. We had 2, if you remember, there were 2 proposals. One was to do an existing inventory of ADUs and auxiliary housing. The other was to look at possibility of getting support for education and outreach for wastewater development within the community. We don't know quite what it means yet. We provided a letter of intent. Our letter of intent was accepted, and now we're going to go ahead and apply for funding. But they're suggesting that we do it as part of a larger statewide initiative of wastewater inventories and projects that's being undertaken by Windham County Regional Planning.
Yeah, so how do you write that kind of letter?
That's what we're waiting to find out. So the administrator for the initiative, Emma Spett, reached out to us, and I think the way that I can't answer, but conceptually what she's anticipating is that Jericho could be a case study of a municipality seeking community wastewater capacity for affordable housing development purposes. And so they're doing this sort of macro analysis at the statewide level, and the intent would be for Jericho to be sort of a case study within that.
That's kind of cool.
That's about all I got right now.
Okay.
How we're gonna go ahead and package that and, receive funding is yet to be determined. So there were 2 webinars that I was registered to attend this week, and I wasn't able to go to either one of them. There was one on, did you go to, Catherine, were you able to
I
attend
took a
the
phone call that took longer than I thought, so
so
I,
the paid family leave, you weren't able to.
I
do
didn't go
that.
to the paid family leave. I was gonna go to the Australian ballot just because I've been to one a couple years ago.
Right.
We did
I
COVID.
know Wendy, did the Australian ballot one, and as with all these VLCT webinars, the content will be available.
Right.
And
And not much typically changes on those things. And I went when we did COVID and had to do the Australian ballot.
yeah, oh, you
But-
did, okay.
So I do have my notes from that, but the key is it was at 10 o'clock Wednesday, yesterday.
Yeah.
And I took a phone call that took longer than I thought, and I don't like to come in late.
Yeah, don't blame
But,
me.
but yeah, so the other was what was the other one you said?
The other one was the, family medical leave.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's been on the news a couple times now, and they talk about, it could be employer. It could be split, or it could be employee, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
And it starts next, I think this summer.
I think it launches in the summer.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would, yeah, depending on, what the select board decides in terms of potential institution or adoption of benefit, it wouldn't hit this fiscal year budget.
So what, how would it impact us?
If the select board decides that the town will pay for the, because they're running it through the Hartford. Hartford's gonna provide the insurance.
Yep.
And it's, so much percentage of your pay for so many weeks. or
And it's a
whatever.
benefit they're proposing for state employees, correct? And that-
No, this is for everybody now.
Right, so they want to extend it to municipal employees, state employees.
Yeah.
So
Anyone that falls under the Beaver's umbrella.
Do
my
we
wife
not,
has some,
do people not get sick days? Or do they
They
just go?
do, this is a little bit different, and again, I because I didn't do the webinar.
So it's a-
I don't understand the technicalities.
so my wife Jane works for medical center. And she has this through medical center. It's also managed through the Hartford. So basically it secures your job. So if you have to take a family leave because of certain medical things, it can be you, it can be for a spouse, a parent, that your job isn't technically in jeopardy. Some cases you don't get paid for it, but still it sets grounds for, there's a little more flexibility for dealing with family emergencies.
Yeah,
And
I
it-
used to work for that same thing up until 6 months ago,
Okay.
so I probably had it too, but.
And that it really, it covers a certain amount of leave time. They're gonna give you a certain percentage of your salary.
Yep.
But
It can, yes, it can.
Yeah.
Yes, it can.
that's what this one is supposed to do, but it's not a huge time, but at least it's something. Because there's a lot of, I guess, businesses that don't, the ones in the states that
Yeah.
doesn't have anything.
Great, and I had briefly shared the notice of public meeting for the Riverside sidewalk construction project. That's gonna be, I want to say February 3rd, but I will, I'll email you the notice that Linda put together. She printed one off for me and I apparently forgot to bring it down. Reiterating quickly the upcoming dates for the town garage open house and the information session. The next scheduled open garage will be on Saturday, February 3rd. That'll be happening from 1 to 3 in the afternoon again. And our hope is that the weather cooperates and the guys will be out driving, and there'll be no machinery there to make our point about
It's true.
space constraint. And then the public meeting will be Thursday, February 8th, which is the Thursday between our first and second meeting in February. That'll be here in the town office at 7:00. Yeah, and then I guess the other, I think I emailed you the Jericho Town Library. Received notification of support from the MERP program that CCRPC is managing for the state, so they're gonna, so they've been deemed they're gonna be able to receive an energy audit of the building, so they can get guidance on the best steps forward for weatherization, heat enhancement.
Yeah, I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, I think so too. It seemed like it was kind of a long shot, though we were
Yeah.
initially led to believe that most of those benefits and resources were reserved for communities in significant need, so that's what I got.
So
Oh.
before we do
Yeah,
the,
you wanna-
before we do the minutes, then let's do the,
Actually, before on this,
oh, sorry.
John, I do think we should just really briefly touch in regards to Sabina's email regarding
Oh, yeah.
the flashers.
Yep.
Just so there's acknowledgement that we're doing the best we can.
Sure.
If you want to just do a 2-minute overview of this, just,
Yeah, so, as everyone on the select board is aware, we've been having ongoing, challenges keeping the electronic speed control signs, the flashing crossing signs, online. Some of it through, battery issues that we're working out. We had, the particular issue that, Sabina, raised concern about. I know she had contacted you. I had some discussion with her regarding the broken, push button for the flashing, signs at the crosswalk at the Jolly. Again, we've had, when it was brought to our attention, Paula put in an order to TAPCO for what I now know are 4 replacement buttons. So we have a mini stockpile should one of them break again. And the new sign, I think if you'll remember, one of the signs at the crosswalk between the end of Raceway and the market was hit by a car sometime during the fall. So that's arrived as well. Sabina's point of concern was really driven by, you know, a sense of immediacy and concern about public safety. And I think that, you know, while we don't have an official policy, the general policy has been as soon as it's put on our radar or as soon as it's discovered, we put in an order, and when received, the town road crew will, you know, do whatever replacement or repair is necessary.
And I'm sure certain things you do have backup if you have, if you can.
You know, and I get the frustration. I think the sense, and I can understand this because these things happen and weeks go by, and conversation about, you know, delivery and supply chain concerns specifically seem to have been more rife during COVID. I think there's an expectation that now as COVID's over, these supply chain issues shouldn't still be.
we're still waiting 2 years for a truck.
Well, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think.
So there's still
And it's
issues.
sort of ironic that all of the supply chain issues that exist specifically within the realm of municipal need. But I spoke with Sabina on Tuesday, which is that ironically that morning, Fletcher and the road crew had received the delivery of the 4 new buttons in the sign. Because they had to plow, they didn't get out there. Because we had to plow Tuesday night and yesterday, they didn't get out there until today to reinstall the button, and found out that the mechanism is frozen. And so they're gonna have to figure out a way to reheat it, either bring a torch out there somehow heat it so that they can put the new button in.
It's winter.
Yeah.
It's
It's winter.
So,
winter, rain, freezing.
Yeah, I mean, because when you have the fluctuations of weather we've had, things are
Yeah,
really
and
gonna
And our
freeze.
highway crew's been, what, you said 11 days straight?
yeah,
So,
and I know that's not the, you know, that's not the answer people want, is that, you know, the supply chain is creating delay and road, in terms of public safety, the road crew has to make, they're making public safety decisions all the time. And even though they have the buttons in their possession, the obvious commitment to safety yesterday was plowing. So we're gonna get them in place as soon as we can.
thanks, Tom.
You bet.
Yeah.
You wanna talk dates next?
Yeah, let's do the dates,
Let me just.
because Eric has the issue, do we really need a?
Yeah,
Eric's got issues.
I do. Well, I just wanna, there's just so many emails and so many dates. I wanted to just,
I agree. I'm trying to wrap my head around all this
yeah.
too.
So it seems like there's a proposal for another working session. I wasn't arguing anything but particularly the working session, because I thought we were all kind of there as far as the.
We are kind of there. I mean, if you don't feel that, because the only thing we've changed, I think there was some lease payment changes in the budget and the numbers for the salary.
Mhm.
Salary increase.
So that's really, so if you're comfortable with where it is, we just need to be able to approve it and then put it into the warning.
Okay,
So you could do that all on the same day, which would be the 29th. Because that's right after, that's a few days after you're allowed to start posting the warning. And rather than have two meetings, one to approve the budget and one to approve the warning, you could just do it, approve the budget, approve the capital budget, and then,
so do a special meeting on the 29th is what you're saying?
So if we do the 29th, do we still have one on the 25th?
no, the 25th doesn't count anywhere.
Okay,
I got rid of that one because I can't do it.
Yeah, it's the 25th. I was never able to do because we have the.
okay.
The
And I
JPDC
couldn't
that
either.
Right,
Yeah.
none of us could.
So 29th, 29th would be a specially warned meeting with two things.
Right.
Okay,
Basically approve the budget, send it to whatever. Does that work for Paula? I know Paula's been like trying to wrangle us. Is that?
Well,
Is that?
with two things, it's one, the budgets, because you've got
and the
the
capital plan.
the capital budget, it goes into the main budget.
Yeah.
But they're all kind of in the one piece. And so that gets approved. And then the second thing is we put that number, that final number into that top line of the budget
Correct.
on the warning.
Yeah.
And then you approve the warning. And then, and it's frustrating to her because 2 years in a row now, the printers have wanted it before we could even warn the warning.
Right.
Excuse me one sec, I'm just gonna grab Paula made some notes, which I included in the email that I sent, but I.
Okay, so you're proposing a meeting on the 29th.
Right, that gets it all done.
Assuming we're good with everything in there.
Yep.
I'm just gonna, I can just bug me, I'm gonna flag this under before I forget. Otherwise, I won't be here.
No,
That's true. You went to all the effort, you want to make sure you're here.
Right.
but what was that, his petition?
Yeah.
Oh,
I gave her the thing with all the signatures, but I didn't do the consent form, there's always another form.
I would email it to her too. I would email it to her too.
Oh, she just left, luckily I already had it, but
Okay.
she left it for me here.
Okay.
She said to slide it under.
Okay, good. 'Cause
And she's got-
sometimes when you walk
And she's
through that
got
door,
the dog stuff.
there's stuff everywhere. Yeah, she let me a nice little note. I gotta get my dog's rabies shot updated. That is kind of cool that if you register your dog before a certain day.
Right, exactly.
I think that's so cool.
And that's because we want people to be registered, we want people to have the rabies shots for their dogs, because it's much more of a public safety issue than the few bucks we make.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
So we did it that way.
We'll make sure we have all this straight. All this. It's cooler it is down here than upstairs.
It is a little chilly, didn't
I
hear?
roll my sleeves down.
Yeah,
man.
let's get chilly in here. I don't imagine it's because all the windows.
Must be.
Just little. Back to
It was
cool.
fairly warm in that Browns River Middle School gymnasium
Oh,
this
yeah.
afternoon.
Was
This
it
evening.
rocking?
It was packed. I mean, I had to park over, well, I guess I shouldn't say it, because I'm not sure I was supposed to park there, but there was no parking to be had.
So did Catherine say
I think what she's
So is there gonna be
proposing is,
is a work session?
I don't think we need it,
Okay, so on the 23rd or 24th?
No. nothing,
Okay. And
just
what-
the 29th.
What about the, so on the 29th, do a work session along with?
No work session.
Oh, really? So just budget approval,
Yep.
and do we have a time?
Well, we'll wait for Joe to get back, but yeah, that's kind of what we were just talking about.
Trying to
We
get
want to make
it
sure it works for Paula and everything that she needs, which is
Great.
what you want to get. But yeah, I
But
think,
since people are okay with the budget already and we just had those couple little changes.
Yeah,
Then all we have to do is prove it and then put that number into the warning. And
any further discussion needed in regard to capital budget?
I don't know. Do we?
I don't know, I don't know one. Is there anything you think we need to consider?
Not necessarily.
No, I think we've, I mean, we've covered a bunch of that stuff.
I can circle back to Brian and ask, but I think the 29th is fine.
We just, need a time, and that way, everything, it's not too much later than Paula needs to get it, that extra cost to the printer.
What day of the week is 29th?
I believe it's a Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Okay, and what time would people like to do?
Well, you guys work, so what time works for you?
Later in the afternoon is always better.
Well, this is a meeting. This is a public meeting, not a working session. This is
Six, just fine. 6?
6?
I can do 6.
I can do 6.
I can do 6. Okay. 6
Okay.
PM.
Great.
We better edit that.
Do we have the room that day? It's the 5th Monday, so it
So
should be.
should be free.
Should be free.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah, that's why, because that week is usually, everything is like first, second and fourth or something.
Yeah,
Sure, yes,
Or just a one-shot deal.
yeah.
And then, so the first public hearing is scheduled for the 15th.
And like that, I said, I wanted to know when early voting starts.
When does early voting start? Is it written up there?
Uh,
Let me move the.
Yeah, that's you. Yeah, the 20th. Early absentee ballots available for
Oh, yeah.
presidential primary, so I gotta believe that's.
oh, wow. So. And the 4th is the last to print. Yeah.
What's it doing?
See, you don't have, you could even have a budget discussion to go over the budget on the first select board meeting of the month.
Which would be the first.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not a public hearing.
Okay,
It doesn't have to be a public hearing, the first one.
okay.
I like to get as early as I can when people start voting, because that way, all this is, of course, we can't do a whole lot of other, too many other things because the
Right,
budget
'cause
takes
of-
time.
Let me.
Oh, so you're saying instead of a Monday, just do the Thursday?
No, we have to do the town meeting warning on the 29th so that Paula gets everything
Oh,
to the printers, because her drop dead deadline is the first, and so we can't have a meeting that night.
sure, yeah, okay.
But instead of having a budget hearing on Thursday, the 15th, we could either have a separate meeting between the 1st and the 15th, it's just the budget, or you could do it as the first meeting of the month, so that people who are going to early vote understand the budget.
Sure.
Gotcha.
But it doesn't have to be warned where we have the very specific timelines that it has to be so many days after your warning, do you have a public hearing?
So you're saying we could do it on the first, that could count as the first one,
Yep,
Mhm.
then we'd need to do one more before town meeting day.
right, and it's within that last
It
10
has
days.
to, right, it has to be between the 26th and the of February and the 1st of March.
Yeah, because technically it's.
Really?
It's
Well-
I think it's 10 days before town meeting is the somewhere, usually people have it that, the Monday before town meeting, in fact, a lot of people do.
So, yeah, I'm just going by what Paula had written.
So, I mean, sometime during that.
So for the second meeting, which is the second, which would be the only other one, if we did it on the first,
Right,
there'd be one more required meeting, and that can be when?
it's typically within, I think it's 10 days.
For town meeting.
Before town meeting. Which is March 5th.
Is that what she has?
Well, the fifth, so yeah, I guess her rationale here is if it were 10 days before town meeting, the 5th is a Tuesday, you wouldn't want to do it the 4th, which would be the Monday.
What a lot of towns do. I mean, we found that out.
Really?
Remember the DEI committee came back and said all these different towns.
Oh, yeah,
Sure, yeah,
that's right.
but those are a lot of the towns that don't have an in-person town meeting, yeah.
Right. But clearly, you are required to have a budget hearing, before town meeting,
Okay, so we could do there's 5 Thursdays
Mhm.
in February, we could just meet on Thursday again,
So we're doing.
on the 5th.
29th.
So
29th.
what we're,
I think I got a jet force thing on the 29th. Sorry, because
Oh.
I knew it was the 29th with the 5th Thursday,
Well,
so.
I gotta tell you, it's a moot to me, cause I'm out. That's the week I'm gone to Florida on
that's
vacation,
that's
so you
kids'
guys can
vacation
do
week,
whatever
right.
you want.
That's right, that's.
So,
what- they
so what-
on that too.
I have to have,
Sorry, guys.
That's right.
so when do you leave?
I fly out the 27th that
27th.
morning.
All right, well,
26?
you could do it on the 26th.
I can do it 26.
That's Monday, the 26th. Let's see.
So you all, so I'm actually leaving on the 26th. But not,
One,
my
two,
presence isn't
three,
integral to.
No.
We just need to meet, go over the budget,
Do it,
answer
yeah.
questions,
Yeah.
and,
That's it.
I mean, honestly,
All of
I've been pretty,
blown away by
on-
the attendance.
yes, thank you. It is exactly the opposite thing I was gonna say. So I'm not too excited about it, I'm all about it. I would love to have participation, but to do it for 3 people in the room.
Yeah. That's really better.
So you wanna set it for 26?
I can do the 20, we're not going anywhere that week that I know of. So I can do the 26th.
Okay. Time,
Okay, so 6 o'clock,
Sure.
keep it at 6 P.M.
6 p.m. Make
Great.
it easier for Paula to get home because she'll have to run the machine.
Paul will be so pleased.
For real?
But,
No, just
so-
to have this done.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Now, do we have a whole lot scheduled for the first, that doing a budget discussion then will throw things off?
We do not. Let me briefly look at. Oh, wow, look at that. I had it open.
So what I'll
No,
do,
we have, we actually have it written in. First public informational hearing on budget and capital budget.
excellent, works for me.
And
Meant to be.
we have the Richmond Trail Running Club who are supposed to be doing a race. And they wanted to put it on your radar, and that's all we have for the first.
Oh, good.
So far.
So far, that's good. Then we keep it to a minimum then.
Great. I'll be so pleased.
Okay, so
Okay,
no working session. We're meeting on, you know, I might just take a minute and plug those in so I don't mess anything up here.
yeah.
Okay, I can send these out in final one too tomorrow. too.
And then what I'll do, to, you know, Eric understands this, you'll get the information. But we've had a running tab for years now of how different ways to split up the budget discussion. And typically the chair gets to do the fun part, the revenue. And then the last little odds and ends. And because it was me and I had always done the capital budget and then I did then of course I did the highway because most of the capital budget was in the highway. But we don't have to do that anymore. Because it's all kind of parlayed in differently. And since you've wanted to jump in with both feet on trucks, maybe you want to do the highway.
I'll take it, highway.
So I'll split it up and show you how, you know,
Yep.
how we split it up in past
Sure.
years, because we try to get it so that everybody gets a certain amount of talking time.
Okay. And that'll be on the 29th
Uh,
or on the 20.
it'll be on the first. We'll start with it on the first, because that's how we're going to do the budget, as if we're going to do the budget.
What do you mean? I'm sorry, what?
You know,
date?
it's as if it was a public hearing, but not.
Okay,
And so I'll send out, okay, here's how we've split it out before, and, you know, here we could do it this way this year if you like, and, you know.
so remember, I'm not here on town meeting day,
Oh, that's right.
okay?
But then, oh, I'll just throw everything to you before you leave.
Yeah,
We'll make him go through the whole thing
That's
on
right.
that Monday, and then we'll just
So-
sit back.
when you talk about discussing each one, it's not at town meeting day, it's the one prior to it.
Right,
Okay, that's fine.
as well as on the first.
Yeah.
We'll go through it on the first, we'll go through it again on that Monday.
The 1st of March?
No, February.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with, yeah. I'm fine
And
with that.
then, of course, then Eric and I don't have to split it on town meeting.
Right,
There won't be a discussion town meeting, right? We'll have it
so
all-
29th,
Yeah, exactly.
6 P.M.
That's
Yep,
what it's all about.
and then
29th at 6 p.m.
and then 26th at also 6 p.m. 26th of February,
Correct.
and that's, what is that budget? Special
That
It's
is
a public
that's the
hearing.
Second public hearing.
public. Oh, there they go. Hey, guys.
Fort Bunkers.
Oh, that was state. Oh, right, it's 15. That's right. Public
5 o'clock.
hearing.
If there's snow, they go by my house around 5 in the morning. Shortly after that, the MBI guys are rolling by.
Does anybody know what happened to Route 15 on Tuesday around 3:30 or 4? It was backed up for miles.
Oh, on Thursday or Wednesday?
It was Tuesday.
Oh, because I know what happened Wednesday with the power outage at Packard Road.
Oh, yeah.
The power lines lit right up. I watched the power lines lit right up
Yeah,
that whole
it was
section.
just the Tuesday of this week.
Yeah, that I don't know.
Yeah, because I had a doctor's appointment. I was coming back. We were doing some errands. We were, you know, at CVS in that area, and then. Well, actually, it's a good thing we pulled in to go to Hannaford's first, pulled in that way because it was already backed up at that light. And you could see it all the way down 15.
Yeah. no,
And then we came in and we thought, okay, we'll just go home then, 15, no big deal. And we went, you can't get in because it was backed up all the way onto the circ from, that
Really?
light. At,
I heard that was Tuesday. Yeah, one of the guys tried to get out. He said, "Don't go 15."
yeah, in fact,
Yeah, it's an
the,
accident or something, I guess.
we figured it had to be an accident because eventually Richmond Rescue had an ambulance that it had to get through, and it came through the parking lot at by, you know, the movie theater, and then, you know, tried to
Mhm.
go off that way because it couldn't get through any other way.
Yeah. huh.
And then, so we went down the circ and going home the circ, I just didn't do the rest of my errands, but it was just, we couldn't figure out what went wrong. No, and it wasn't on the news, and it was like
Mhm.
driving me crazy. It was miles and miles of traffic. You'd think it would have been a big deal. All right, back to Bunny
Okay.
Trails,
Okay, so we got the dates ironed out that we needed to.
right?
I signed the warrants.
Minutes?
Now it's minutes. Yeah, and so it's now minutes and then hopefully a quick executive session.
Okay.
All right, I didn't, the December 19th meeting was our town plan one, and I didn't see anything that I needed to change particularly. So we could just,
Motion to approve the minutes of December 19th, 2023.
I'll second that motion.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
December 21st was our regular select board meeting, and that one, there wasn't anything substantive that needed to be changed.
Motion to approve the minutes of December 21st, 2023.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, January 4th, I do have changes. David Miller is really David Villeneuve.
Ah,
Oh.
have you signed in under an alias? You didn't think we would know.
Yeah, and then on remote attendees, Tyler, who, I don't,
What line is it?
line 14 on the January 4th, it says Tyler. Because sometimes unless they catch the remote attendees signing in, we don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't either. I mean, that's why I looked and went, ooh, okay.
It wasn't our engineer. to my
No.
knowledge.
No, it wasn't.
Let me pull it up. I'm sorry. I downloaded it.
And then line 40, well, Eric is looking it up. Line 49, it's David Miller again, so it's David V.
Oh.
And the only reason I knew about it is when I started reading about, oh, that's what it's about.
Yeah,
It had to be David Villeneuve.
you're right, because he's the one that asked why Jim can't get hooked up.
Yeah, exactly. And then line 65, we either, I don't know where Mother Maria said denotes hate in our town, or she said state twice, but really for the minutes, you just, if it's, hate in our state and across the state. So I mean, you just need one part of it. And I can't say whether she said town or not, so.
Just indicate it with a question mark, and we can go back and review.
Yeah. I would imagine she was trying to say hate in our town and across the state, but.
Yep.
And then the biggie, the substantive change is right at the very end. And that's where we make things official. Oh, I got a minor change in line 424. Is should be if.
Or
I don't remember who Tyler was. I see what you mean on line 14. I don't know.
All right, now the biggie is line 577. And I'll talk slow.
okay,
Joe motioned to come out of executive session at 8:36 a.m. January 13th. Eric seconded,
and such session at 8 p.m.
8:36 a.m.
8:36 a.m.
A lot going on that morning.
Yeah,
January 13th.
and Eric seconded it. Because that's when Eric did second it, so that's,
Yep.
that's.
Was
the
he
time it
legal
made-
though? He wasn't in the United States when he did it.
No.
Yes,
You
I
were-
was. I was back there.
Oh, were you back with
Yeah.
it?
So that's why that's why the time is what it is, because that's when Eric seconded it. The motion passed 3-0.
Motion.
I think I was. What was the date again?
Saturday.
Saturday 13th.
Oh, no, I was not. You're right. I was not.
But we were in executive session, so, and then Joe motioned, Eric seconded to approve the MOU. With Vermont Gas System. That allows for the connection. To Oriole Orchard. And for negotiations. Between VGS and TOJ. To continue. And authorizes the town administrator, John Abbott. To sign on behalf of the town. Motion passed 3-0. Eric motioned, Joe seconded. To adjourn at 8:30 AM. No, 8:38 AM, sorry, my 8 that was local there. Motion passed 3-0. But now it's official.
Great.
Yeah, we had no idea we'd have to stay in that long, but at least, but we knew we had to stay until that MOU was cleaned up, you know, and was able to come out.
That was a marathon.
Yeah, seemed like it.
Okay, motion to motion to approve the minutes as amended of. I lost my
1/4/24.
1/4/24. Joe,
I'll second that motion to approve.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I will make a motion to go into executive session because for reasons of premature disclosure will be detrimental to parties involved for reasons of legal and personnel,
Legal person.
Personal.
legal and personnel, and I will invite John Abbott to that session.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.